And now, good mic work commentaries and Greg Morgan presents the Winged Eagle Podcast.
Happy Monday night, everyone. What's going on? And welcome to your Winged Eagle Podcast for July 24th, 2023. Raw just ended a few minutes ago. I would like to hear your reviews on the show in the chat. Give me your letter grades or number grades, A, B, C, or D, or F, and 1 through 10. Let me know what you thought of tonight's show. I thought tonight's show was okay. Raws have been progressively better ever since Vince McMahon left. However, you know, the shows still are formulaic and you got a lot of people involved in their various issues right now. And we've seen a lot of kind of repeat segments a lot in the last couple of weeks, but I still thought tonight's Raw was fun enough for me. There was some good action. I liked the Drew and Gunther confrontation. The main event contract signing was a lot of fun. I'm loving the week that Dominic had, and we've got SummerSlam coming up. So a lot of these issues were kind of made official tonight. We knew we were going to get a ton of matches announced officially because I think according to WWE's website earlier today, they still only have about 4 matches announced for SummerSlam on a card that we expect to have 10 or 11 matches on it. So we figured we'd probably get Trish and Becky finalized tonight, Ricochet, Logan Paul, Drew and Gunther, and we pretty much did. We might even have a couple of other matches floating around there too that we have to talk about. And it does look like Kevin Owens is legitimately injured, which is why we saw him attacked and kind of written off. I hope this does not affect his, number one, SummerSlam status, which it might, and number two, the tag team championship reign him and Sami Zayn have. I would hate to see them have to forfeit those titles after winning them at WrestleMania. So hopefully whatever's going on with Owens, he can recover from that in a speedy enough time. I don't really know the details on that. Just heard about it tonight during Raw. So we're going to be catching up on a lot here. I made a post over on the community tab on YouTube, but I've been mentioning it on social media as well, that Monday nights are going to be a destination here on the channel for the remainder of the summer due to how busy my summer is at my other job. Plus, when AEW started Collision, that kind of threw a monkey wrench in our Saturday Winged Eagle podcast plans, which I usually do in the afternoon. And I'm like, well, hell, when am I going to find time to come up here and talk about all of these shows at the right time? So at least for now, until my schedule lightens up, which will be after Labor Day, things will be really easy in the fall, not too crazy. But right now, I'm balls to the wall at work. So Monday nights is really my best night of the week to get up here and talk about things in a long form podcast, catch up on what I missed, talk about results, pay-per-view cards, news, that type of thing. The only downfall is, we're starting this very, very late, 11 o'clock p.m. on the East Coast after Raw. So you might have to stay up with me a little bit later to get some of these Winged Eagle gems, but it's really my best night of the week to do it right now. We might alter some things near the end of the summer, and I'll still be up here during the week, with a quick review or, a little side pod, which I'm working on, mic drops, things like that. So just keep in mind, if you want my full opinions and reviews on the week in wrestling, Monday nights is going to be a good place to find that. You'll see me here every Monday night for the duration of the summer, at least, and probably even beyond that. But after the summer in the fall, we should increase the podcasts, and there might even be 2 a week, depending on what's going on in wrestling. But there's a lot of shows. There's literally a show like every night of the week to keep track of. So it's just hard to stay on top of it in YouTube world and make sure I can get up here and talk about everything I need to talk about. So tonight, we're going to talk about tonight's Monday Night Raw. We're going to get into a lot of wrestling news involving Bray Wyatt, LA Knight's upcoming supposed push. We have some news on WrestleMania 41. We'll talk a little bit about The Rock and Matt Cardona. Then, like I said, we will review Monday Night Raw. We will talk about last Friday's SmackDown as well, the big Jey Uso and Roman Reigns segment on SmackDown. And we will run through the current SummerSlam card as it stands right now and maybe even offer some early predictions, because there's been a lot of talk about Cody Rhodes and his future beyond SummerSlam. That was a big topic of conversation last week on the podcast. And one of my questions may have been answered, because one of the questions I brought up last week is that, assuming hypothetically WWE still wants Cody and Roman at WrestleMania next year, at WrestleMania 40, what does Cody do when he's done with Brock at SummerSlam? What does he do for the fall, for September, October, Survivor Series, Christmas? What does he do? He's got to do something. And if he's going to win his blow off with Brock, there's no feud left there, which means he's got to feud with somebody else. Last week, I was talking about Randy Orton and maybe even a couple of other people. One name I completely forgot about was Mr. Bray Wyatt, who might apparently have some sort of an impact on SummerSlam in interjecting himself in one of the big matches. And when you look at the card, Cody's match makes the most sense because Cody is the one who seemingly after SummerSlam is not going to have an issue. Seth Rollins also might not if he's victorious. If he beats Balor, then Seth can move on. If he loses to Balor, then that title is going to be caught up and tied up with Damian Priest and his briefcase and all that shit. So Wyatt doesn't really fit in there, or he doesn't really fit in the Bloodline storyline either. I would hate for Bray Wyatt to interject himself into the best storyline in years in WWE. So that only leaves Cody. We'll talk more about that later on. We're also going to talk about Blood and Guts. We're going to talk about this past week's Collision. Ricky Starks picking up another win over CM Punk in a match, this time a tag team match. And we'll look ahead to All In and All Out. We'll preview this week's Dynamite. The entire card has pretty much been announced. And we'll talk a lot about AEW as well, along with answering any questions you guys might have, hanging out, and that type of thing. So cheers to you. I hope you guys don't mind if I opened up actually a beer tonight. I usually don't drink beers when I do a podcast because they're usually in the afternoon and I got lots of other things going on. Not tonight. I'm just going to do this, hang out with you guys, and then it's just chilling on the couch, eating dinner, watching movies with Elizabeth. That's on tap for me this evening. So happy Monday to you. Hopefully you guys are having a great week. I got my absolute ass handed to me this past week. It's at work. It's been very, very busy, and I didn't get a chance to really catch up on anything until last night. We were up here doing our SummerSlam. What the hell did we watch last night? Fucking SummerSlam did we watch? SummerSlam 2001. I almost forgot. We watched SummerSlam 2001 right here on the channel last night. And then after that was when I caught up on Blood and Guts, on Collision, on SmackDown, on SummerSlam, all out, all in, wrestling news. All of that I kind of worked on last night. So I was way out of the loop. So I've got some pretty good notes here, some things we're going to talk about, but I might need some holes plugged from you guys. So if I have a question, I might actually be asking the chat to help me figure something out if I'm not totally brought up to speed on everything. But I think that I am. I worked really hard on my wrestling homework last night, and I think we're ready to rock. Speaking of our watch-alongs, thank you to everybody who joined in on our SummerSlam 2001 watch-along, which won the SummerSlam poll up on YouTube with 71% of the vote, over 4,000 votes on that poll, and SummerSlam 2001 destroyed it. Next week, we have one more Sunday left to watch a SummerSlam, and then we're going to be done with SummerSlam. So I was thinking about which one should we watch? Should I do another poll? We've gotten all the good ones. There's only a few left. Like we haven't watched 95 or 96 or 97 because I think they all suck. We haven't watched 99. I think that one sucks. And we haven't watched anything modern. So since it's the last week before this year's SummerSlam, and since hopefully in about a month and 2 weeks, Gunther is going to surpass Honky Tonk Man as the longest running Intercontinental Champion of all time, I figured this coming Sunday, 6 days from now, we would watch the very first SummerSlam. SummerSlam 1988. The link is already up on the channel. You can click that, save it for Sunday, and we will watch the very first one, the Mega Powers meeting the Mega Bucks and that big surprise upset of Honky and the Warrior. And I thought that would be a nice way to close out our SummerSlam watch-alongs. And then in August, maybe we'll find some WCW shows to do or whatever as we get into August and September. So that's what's on tap for this week. We're also going to have another Saturday night's main event watch-along. That will probably be Wednesday or Thursday, and that's going to be for members only. And also going to have Elizabeth join us for a watch-along and a video for members as well. We're just trying to work out the details on that. So lots of stuff coming to the channel. Please do me a favor and subscribe. We are on the road to 40,000 subscribers. We should be there very, very soon, as long as you keep telling your friends and tell your moms too. Make sure they all subscribe and hang out with us every Monday night and wherever and whenever else we are up here. Let me say hi to the chat, get those hellos out of the way, knock out any super chats that might be here, and then we will start rolling into our menu of things that we're going to discuss today. Also, if you are a channel member of 6 months or more, you will see your name scrolling across the ticker down there. Thank you to everybody for all of your memberships and your support. Patreon will also be getting some content soon. I've got a bunch of videos queued up, ready to render, just some live reactions where I've added the footage and things like that. So if you are a Patreon subscriber, you will see some of those videos appearing pretty soon here in the next few days whenever I can finish them up. And then once they're done, I will provide the members with those links as well. That way, everybody who supports the channel monetarily will have some sort of perks for their support. Thank you so much, everyone. Let's cruise. to the chat and say hi to everybody. By the way, thumbs up button would be appreciative. One thing weird about the channel right now is that all of our numbers are up except for one number, and that is our live stream numbers. For some reason, those have been cut by 50%. As you can see, only 54 people in the chat right now. Not sure what the hell's going on there, but all of the videos are getting good views after the fact. Subscribers are still growing, but for some reason, these live stream numbers are extremely down. So YouTube is just funny. So I would really appreciate if you guys could be here as often as you can to hang out with me on Monday nights. And please keep hitting that thumbs up button. I'd appreciate it. Let's now finally cruise to the chat. Say hi to some friends. Let's start with some members like Kevin, K-Dogs, Kennels in the house, and James Williams is here. Fellow Californian. Good to see you as well. We have JJ Leg in the house. What's up, man? Good to see you. Mark Galan is chiming in with $5. Will you review All In? Of course. Oh, wait. Will you review All In 2018 to get your fan base hyped for All In 2023? That's a good idea. I barely remember All In 2018. I know I ordered it and we watched it. It might be a good idea. I think they talked about it a little bit on Cody's documentary, apparently, as well, which airs on July 30th on the Cock. But if I can find time in August to get that done, Mark, I definitely will. Maybe we'll do something live. Who knows? How Wheezy is here. Shoot brother, for 11 months now. You had to make your own dream storyline. What would it be? Jesus, man, my own dream storyline? I'm still doing the shout outs right now. I can't really branch off into a question like that at the moment, but maybe we can circle back to that. How Wheezy. We got some numbers coming in, 7.5, 7s out of 10s. That's not bad. You guys are giving it C+ grades for tonight's Raw. 5 more from Mark. You think MJF will turn on Adam Cole after they lose cleanly to FTR this Wednesday? I do. Now help me out. Is Adam and Cole and MJF on Wednesday or is it on Collision? I thought Cole and MJF and FTR was on Collision, but I could be wrong about that. It actually might be on Dynamite. But I don't think it is. Help me out. Am I right or is Mark right? I have a feeling it's on Collision, but he might be right. I'm pretty sure it's Collision next week, not on Dynamite. But I do expect a turn at some point because I think MJF and Adam Cole is going to have to be an all-in or all-out match. There's really no way around that. Maybe even do them both nights, do one match and then a rematch or something like that. They're already kind of teasing that, I think they're trying to get a lot of shit in because they know this is going to kind of be short-lived. I think it's way more entertaining than maybe AEW thought it would be, so they want to get as much out of it as they can, but they might not want to alter their plans of maybe not splitting these guys up because of how well they're getting along and how the fans are responding. I think you need to stay the course and do MJF and Cole at All In. But everything that they're doing together, their friendship, they're eating spicy food, they're working out, all the stuff they're doing has been comedy gold. Their chemistry is unreal, and it's been super fun. But that can only last so long. And eventually someone's going to have to turn on someone. And I think Roderick Strong could have something to do with that too, as he is none too pleased about Cole, forming this friendship with MJF, and he's telling him don't trust him. FTR saying the same thing. So something's going to have to come to a head there. Whenever it happens, I don't think it's going to be shocking, but I think it's going to generate a shocking response from the crowd. And it's just a matter of when they do it, how they do it. I would definitely not have them beat FTR. I think they need to lose that. They won the Eliminator tournament or whatever. But if they were to beat FTR, it'd be one thing if it was a different set of tag team champions. If Best Friends were tag team champions, or Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus, or any of fucking SCU. If any other team was tag team champions, I would be all about Cole and MJF winning the tag team titles. But the fact that the titles are on a team, an actual tag team wrestling team, I don't want to rock that boat. I'd like to see FTR, as they said in their promo on Collision, they got unfinished business with a lot of other teams, and they don't need to be messing around with two guys that aren't even a team. So we will see what happens, but I think FTR should be able to retain and maybe even use some dissension in MJF and Cole to get that victory, or maybe Roderick Strong comes and accidentally fucks it up, which ultimately leads to more dissension with Cole and MJF because Cole wants to, defend Roddy. He didn't mean to do it, but MJF's pissed, that type of thing. So it just depends on how far they decide to stretch this out. Mike, good to see you, man. Appreciate you being here. LA Knight deserves a title run more than Dom. Well, title run, I don't know. You mean just any title run? He deserves a title run more than Dom? I don't know. I think they're kind of equal in terms of their overness. I love what they did with Dom, but I'm not about picking sides between Dom and LA Knight. I like them both. It's silly to do that. Good to see Spaz in here as well. WWE Last Week in Collision review available now over on the Spazsters YouTube channel. Trying to knock out all the members in the super chats, and then we'll get going here. Big MGM, thank you for being here, my friend. Appreciate the $5. Love Dom's progress on the mic and in the ring. That Blue Thunder Bomb reversal into the Rana looked good. Yeah. Dom has got, he's not great in the ring, but when it comes to guys like Dominic and LA Knight, I've seen a lot of critiques of both of their ring work lately, and we'll talk about the Wade Keller report or the Torch report on LA Knight in a minute. But when it comes to these guys, I don't really give a fuck about their ring work, to be honest with you. It would be nice if they had decent ring work. Rey Mysterio is Dominic's father. He can't be that bad. So any shortcomings Dominic might have in the ring, who fucking cares? The dude is over like Rover. Rock was very limited in the ring. Rock had a silly ass finishing move, the people's elbow. Rock was very athletic and stuff, but in terms of, what he could do in the ring, even when he first won the title in like late 98, he was not polished yet, even. I still thought there was some things his in-ring work was lacking, but you can't ignore the popularity and how over he is, and the fans really don't give a shit about that when you really get down to it. They want you to be able to work, yes, but they're not demanding that every single wrestler is Kurt Angle or Eddie Guerrero, because that's not needed. When it comes to Dominic and LA Knight, it would be nice if they knew how to work pretty well, and I think that they do, but I'm not really looking for them to be Bret Hart. That's not why I'm tuning in for them. I'm not watching Dominic or LA Knight for their ring work. You're not going to go to Red Lobster for a taco. You're watching these guys because of what they can do, how over they are, the crowd response, Dominic's relationship with Rhea Ripley, which is phenomenal. I'm really hoping we get a wrestling wedding out of these two at some point. That would be great. And of course, we've seen what LA Knight can do and how, how his popularity is soaring, and we'll be talking about him too. But Dom, some people, like MGM says, some people feel like Dom has improved in the ring a little bit. And when I had issues with Dominic's ring work before, that was when he wasn't over. That was, in the Thunderdome days, and he's teaming up with Ray. And I'm like, I like Dominic, I do, but this kid has taken up an awful lot of TV time away from wrestlers far more capable than him. But now the kid's over, because before he was a nondescript. Nobody really gave a shit about Dominic. They cared about Ray, not much Dominic. Maybe they cared about him a little bit because he's Ray's son, but Dominic wasn't. Nobody was buying tickets to see Dominic. That has changed now. People are definitely buying tickets so they can come boo the shit out of him. And his entire presentation right now is great. So I absolutely love it. And I'm glad that Dominic's got some supporters out there, because Dom's the man. Deshaun Robinson, Red Raven Rucker, and Financial Truth Academy. Good to see you guys here as well. The Juliet is in the house. We got another $2 coming in from Mark. Hoping FTR and Young Bucks fight at All In. Yeah, I feel like they still have one more left in them, right? All In could be a good one. I think FTR defending the tag team titles at All In just a barn burner tag team match, something the caliber like we saw them with Jay and Juice or the Briscoes or something like that. If you could do that at All In Wembley, would just be remarkable. Victor Colon, good to see you as well. Let me say hello to Stephen Harris. Regina Reese is here as well. We got Rodrigo in the house, Roddy K, Sean 2018, Toro Hill, Jay Lambo, Denny Downbad. Jamari is here as well, 7th season. Got you already. Ronnie Matthews is in the house as well. Making sure I get as many shout outs as we can. Vash Starwin, Matthias, Jason, Turbo, Onion is here. We got Nick Steele in the house as well. Chad Jones up in here. Big J, Mike Rouse. All right. I think that pretty much knocks out the pleasantries there. Thanks again, everyone, for being here tonight. Please, thumbs up button, all that jazz. I would appreciate it. Why don't we start with, before we get into Monday Night Raw, let's start with some wrestling news. Then we'll talk about Raw and SmackDown a little bit, and we will talk about SummerSlam before moving into AEW business. But we should talk about Bray Wyatt first. Now, there was some rumors circulating this week about Bray Wyatt having an impact on SummerSlam in some way. Now, this wasn't a very credible source, but it was out there. Now, Fightful had reported that pitches were made all the way back in 2019 for a new Wyatt family involving, the Funhouse characters. That was when he started doing the Fiend stuff. And apparently Eric Young and Mike Bennett were set to be a part of that. And we heard a lot about that back in the day. There was a lot of speculation that the Funhouse characters were going to come to life. And even, most recently with the Uncle Howdy stuff, they were kind of coming to life, right? There was that one Raw or TV where they were showing up in the crowd and everything. So none of that is really a surprise. But Bray Wyatt's status has been something that we've been wondering about ever since, the Mellow Yellow Fuckboy match or whatever that was at the Royal Rumble. And him disappearing after that, never got his feud off with Bobby Lashley. Nobody really knows what's wrong with Bray Wyatt. It's a health issue. We don't know if it's physical or mental or whatever. It's Bray's business. But assuming, that he gets healthy again, they do want to use him. And apparently he's been spotted backstage a couple times in the last few weeks. So there are reportedly just rumors that there are actual creative plans in place for him for when he comes back. But nobody really knows when that is. But if Bray Wyatt is set to go and he is healthy, SummerSlam would be a perfect place to bring him back. And that was one of my concerns. Now, last week on the podcast, we talked for like 30 minutes about Cody, about what Cody's story is. Is his story just winning any championship, or is his story winning Roman's championship? And if finishing his story means he's got to be the guy to finally dethrone Roman, that's something that they could stretch out all the way to next year's WrestleMania. So we don't know if they're going to do that or not, but hypothetically, let's just say they are going to do that. And that is what the internal plan is. Cody has to do something between now and then because there's now a world championship on Raw. So if WWE has in their mind that Cody's going to be beating Roman, how do you keep Cody away from the championship? There was a similar dilemma that went on in the 90s with WWE involving Undertaker, because until they finally decided to put the belt on him, not the time he beat Hogan in 91, but, in 97, those years of 1992 through 1997, that 5-year span there, what were they doing? They were finding shit for Undertaker to do to keep him busy, to keep him away from the world championship. That's why he was always feuding with the big giants, with the Giant Gonzalez's and the Kamalas and the Bundys. We saw that time and time again with him because they just wanted to keep him away from the title because they knew they couldn't put him in a championship match because the Undertaker was impervious to pain and unstoppable and unbeatable. So if they don't want him to win the title, then they don't want to put him in a title match because that means he either has to lose or you just have to pull some shenanigans or whatnot, which they finally started doing with him around 96, late 95. Finally, they couldn't ignore it anymore. And he motioned that he wanted the championship and he wrestled Bret at the Rumble. And it was just a big schmoz. And it took a whole nother year until WrestleMania 13 for them to finally say, okay, he's going to be in a championship match and he's going to straight beat somebody and win the title. It took them that long. So, now with Cody, it's like, I feel like, they need to find feuds for him to keep him busy. And then you hear this Bray Wyatt news and these Bray Wyatt rumors, and you hear that he's going to interfere. There's a chance that he's going to interfere in one of the major matches at SummerSlam. And you look at those major matches, Roman and Jay, Balor and Seth, and Cody and Brock. Of those three, only one of them makes sense to me. Only one of them will most likely only one of those matches will have one of the participants free and clear to do anything in terms of a story. Because whatever happens between Roman and Jey Uso, I don't think that's going to finish the Bloodline saga. I still think there's more story to be told. I like the idea of doing Jimmy and Jey Uso at next year's WrestleMania. And if that's what you have to do, it's going to take a long time to get to that as well. And you have to tell that story. So sticking Bray Wyatt into the middle of that would ruin it. Keep him out of that. Let's say Finn Balor beats Seth Rollins, wins the championship. I've been pitching an idea of Damian Priest cashing in on Balor the night after SummerSlam, which means he beat Seth now for 2 championships and gave them both up the very next night on Raw. I think that would be a fun story as well. And if that's the case, then again, where does Bray Wyatt fit into that? The only way that would make sense is if Rollins won, ended his feud with Bray Wyatt, and now he's free to face a different opponent. So maybe Bray could interfere there, but again, it doesn't feel right. Brock and Cody is the only match where if Cody beats Brock, I was openly out loud wondering what Cody does last week. That's what I talked about. I'm like, what does Cody do after he beats Brock, assuming he does beat Brock? I feel like he will. And when he does, what does he do? How are you going to justify not having Cody target the World Heavyweight Championship? If Bray Wyatt interferes, that could be your feud. And that scares me shitless because Bray Wyatt really let me down. It wasn't really totally his fault, I guess. The White Rabbit stuff, the return, all of that Bray Wyatt did was great, but then they really slowed it down to where, they weren't, the hints got less interesting and the promo was just the same shit every week and they really drugged their feet. And then next thing you know, you got a Mountain Dew ass kissing match or something. And like, what? Why do we have to bring Mountain Dew into this? This makes no damn sense. Everything was going so well. There was so much mystique and intrigue about, who Uncle Howdy is, which apparently was going to be Bo Dallas. And then everything just fizzled away. And I just remember kind of just losing interest. And I'm like, man, they fucked it. The Fiend was a flop. And now this shit is a flop. And it kind of soured me on the whole situation. I love Bray Wyatt. I wish him the absolute best in his professional career. I think he has talent. A lot of fans have been having fun, shitting on the guy and stuff. I'm like, I don't know what purpose that solves. Bray Wyatt is a phenomenal talent. There's nothing that happened there is proof that he sucks or anything. It's just whatever they're trying to do here just wasn't sticking. It started out good and then it just really, really fizzled and evaporated to where not many people cared. And it kind of gave me a bad attitude about it to where I'm like, you know what? I don't care what Bray Wyatt does. I wish him the best, but if they never bring him back, I will be fine. Because if they do bring him back, all I know is we're going to have we could potentially have another really seemingly major storyline or new character upon us that's just going to flop again. And I feel like I'm justified in feeling that way. And Bray Wyatt has had two terrible failures here with The Fiend that had elements of greatness but flopped. And then the last rendition of Bray Wyatt that looked like it was going to be good but flopped. So do you want to do that to Cody? Do you want to put Cody in this position of potentially being in a feud that sucks or being in a feud that you can't pay off or being in a feud that you start and can't finish, like what we saw a couple times already with Bray Wyatt? And do you want to interject magic tricks and all that stuff into Cody? It worked well with, John Cena back in the day at WrestleMania 30 and Bray Wyatt and all of that. But I just think given Bray Wyatt's recent track record and it not being good, pairing him with somebody that's doing really, really well right now could maybe in WWE's mind help Bray Wyatt, but Bray Wyatt could always bring Cody down as well. So I'm not too interested in a Bray Wyatt versus Cody feud, but in my heart of hearts, I kind of feel like that's a really good possibility of happening. I think I think Bray Wyatt could very well interfere or attack Cody or something like that at SummerSlam. And maybe if he does that, I will say this. Perhaps if Bray Wyatt does that, you have Brock win. Somehow, if Bray Wyatt interferes and costs Cody the match or something, and then Brock can still leave and go take his hiatus. And then, Cody and Bray feud throughout the fall, and then Cody puts him down, and then maybe Cody and Brock have one more match at the end of the year. I don't know. I'm thinking out loud here. I don't know where it's going to go. Just the idea of Bray Wyatt being in a feud with Cody makes me nervous because I just think that's a whole lot of too many what ifs there for Cody. I would try to book him, in a way to where like you can't fuck it up. I don't know. I'm just nervous about the whole thing. That whole thing made me nervous when I read it because I'm like, holy shit, I was just talking last week about what Cody's going to do. And now it's starting to look like that option is really, really possible. Ugh. Let's talk about more creative people or creative pushes. LA Knight, we have been wondering about him. We talked about him a lot last week as well and the week before about the reactions he's getting from the crowd, the numbers his YouTube videos are doing, and how over he is. And then finally, it started to look like as recent as last week that, maybe they're going to position LA Knight to face Austin Theory for the U.S. title at SummerSlam. That would be great. That would be so awesome because you would have a guy that everybody loves against a guy everybody hates, and the guy that everybody loves can take a belt off of the guy everybody hates. It would be just a marvelous match and a marvelous moment. So they put him in the U.S. title invitational on SmackDown, but he lost to Rey Mysterio. Now I don't even know if we're going to have a U.S. title match on SummerSlam because Rey, in theory, is something you could probably just do on TV, and Santos Escobar beat Theory in a non-title match clean on SmackDown. So now it almost looks like they're angling for Rey to take the title from Theory and then do a torch passing to Santos Escobar is kind of what I feel like they might be doing there, because there's been talk about WWE wanting to push Escobar as well. A lot of respect between him and Rey Mysterio. And if they have a babyface match for that championship and Santos beats Rey, Rey can hand him the belt and raise his hand and congratulate him and, give him that little, that little nudge, that little seal of approval from Mysterio. So maybe they're going to do that. But LA Knight did not win that match. So now what the hell is he going to do at SummerSlam? Are they going to completely leave him off the card again like they did at WrestleMania? He's got to have something going on. And there's been a lot of talk about his upcoming potential push. And this report is from the PW Torch. And I think this was written, by Wade Keller. I'm not sure. But there was a Torch report this week about LA Knight. And I'm going to read that to you. And I quote, PW Torch sources indicate Vince McMahon has grown to be a fan of LA Knight, and Paul Levesque already was. Last year, when McMahon had decided to end his role as Max Dupree and replace him with his storyline sister, Maxine, in the Maximum Male Models faction, Paul Levesque soon took over creative control after McMahon resigned. Triple H quickly rechristened him as LA Knight, the act Triple H oversaw in NXT. Knight has a long-running reputation of rubbing people the wrong way behind the scenes and just being, quote, bad at backstage politics. Those who know him well tend to like him, and some of them have spoken up on his behalf when Knight gives a bad first impression. Knight's surging crowd reactions and social media popularity had landed him on the radar of Triple H and McMahon as being a candidate for a big push after SummerSlam. By all indications, despite his average or below average work in the ring that isn't at the level of most WWE main eventers, he's on course to get a push at a high level in spite of that, because he has a special X factor in connection with the crowd that hasn't gone unnoticed by anyone. If his push isn't sustained, even if this is a crazy line here. If his push isn't sustained, even if crowds still like him, it'll likely be because he mishandled himself backstage in a way that caused him to lose support of key people who can influence his push. This is why I don't read the PW Torch. This is exactly why. That is absurd. Listen to this. If his push is, so basically they're saying in this, if they start pushing him and it's not sustained, it's because of his backstage attitude. That's a whole lot of assuming right there. You're assuming that this guy who might have a backstage attitude problem, maybe if he's on the verge of a push, might mind his P's and Q's a little bit more. Is he going to be that oblivious? We've heard these things about him before. He was, what year was he released from WWE? When was this? It was probably back in like 2015 or something. In those early days of WWE when he got signed there and let go, or I'm sorry, early days of NXT, first couple of years. And they signed him, but he never really debuted on TV, I don't believe. And when they released him, he was in a big batch of releases. A lot of fans were curious about that. And he did, interviews in later years saying that he was blackballed by WWE because of some of his, behavioral problems, or maybe his attitude, or rubbing people the wrong way. Sounds like he has taken, full responsibility for the times that he may have acted inappropriately in the past or whatever. But he's been back in the company now in WWE for a while. He had his NXT stint and now he's on the main roster. We haven't heard anything about his attitude backstage. There's been a lot of talk about his ring work now, but as we saw in the Attitude Era, once you get over, your ring work does not matter. Nobody gave a shit if The Rock could work or not in early 98, mid 98, late 98, when he was in the Nation. Rock was still a very good professional wrestler, but 98 Rock was not 2001 Rock. There was a big difference there, in the improvement factor of him in the ring. And when you're just that over, All you got to do is be able to have a match, man. All you got to do is do a silly move, a signature move. You know, LA Knight's got his version of the people's elbow that he even gets a hell of a lot more airtime than The Rock ever did. LA Knight's got a good look in terms of what he can do in the ring. Again, I don't need LA Knight to be Kurt Angle. I don't need LA Knight to be Kurt Angle. It's totally fine. If he has basic in-ring work that can get him through matches and he can understand how to work a match and work a big money main event match and tell his story within the limitations of his own ring work. Everybody can do that. Not everybody is going to be Eddie, Kurt, Sean, Brett, Mr. Perfect, whatever. So I don't give a shit about his ring work. And if he does have some sort of a problem with his backstage politics, how bad can it really be? He's been in the WWE on the main roster now for a while. This is the first report of anything recent that I've heard. We've heard in the past LA Knight say things about, problems he might have had in the past. But in terms of his current status in the company, I think it's crazy to just assume that if something doesn't work out here, based on what we know of WWE and their creative and how they have fucked up, how they have had golden opportunities handed to them and they have flushed them down the shitter. Sometimes it looks like it's on purpose. And so to actually write this in your report, well, if he doesn't succeed, it must be his attitude problem. Oh, his attitude problem and not the fucking monkeys that are in the WWE that write the most asinine shit and dumbest fucking ideas we've ever heard. Granted, Triple H is mostly in control now, and we've seen a big improvement on some of the really stupid stuff, but I do not think at all it's a given. If we start seeing a push by LA Knight and then that push falters or whatever, that it has to do with his attitude. Because if he did have an attitude already going into this, I think they might not even push him at all. And we've been hearing, and that's the way it looks like, that's what it looks like they've been doing over the past few weeks. It looks like they haven't wanted to push him because they keep teasing us and then they take it away, tease us, taken away. So if they're waiting until after SummerSlam, and now apparently the plan is not to do Theory and LA Knight at SummerSlam unless they throw something together this week, unless Ray gets his title shot on TV and loses, and then you somehow get to LA Knight and Austin Theory. But it's starting to look like that U.S. title match is not going to be on the show, right? So I think now it's just a matter of being able to put in place whatever you have for him and see how he does. And I really wouldn't worry about the backstage attitude stuff. I think it would be incredibly stupid for someone who's on the doorstep of a push and a lot of money to have no interest in improving some of these things about himself that might have gotten him trouble before. He took a long time to get back to the company. He let a lot of years go by in his life. Now he's 40 years old and he's got this opportunity. You got to make sure that anything that slowed you down before doesn't slow you down this time. And I would like to think, without knowing LA Knight personally, I would like to think that these are things that he also is thinking of and saying, hey, I've made some mistakes in the past with attitude or behavior or conduct or politics or whatever. If I'm on the verge of big push and big money, maybe keep your mouth shut. So it's a lot of assumption there by the toilet paper torch, but whatever. We will see how LA Knight does when, in fact, this push actually ends up happening. But we will see. WrestleMania 41 may have a location. We've heard a lot about Minneapolis over the last couple of years as being a possible destination for WrestleMania. They almost had it a few years ago, but I think then COVID hit. They might have been penciled in for 38 or something like that, maybe. I don't know. That was LA was 38. But somewhere in the late 30s there, I was thinking they were, it was talked about Minneapolis. But now it might be WrestleMania 41 coming to the US Bank Stadium, which is where the Minnesota Vikings play. The Fightful Select report that talked about this today did mention that it would not be Target Field, which I didn't think that it would be. They're not going to go there, which is an outdoor baseball park. Indoors, especially that far north, is where you want to be. And that stadium is beautiful. I remember reading something about when it was built. I guess the front of it, is all glass windows. And apparently they built the stadium right in like a bird migration path. And birds were like slamming into the windows because they're just flying right into them and dying like birds, hundreds of birds, dead on the ground, and they had to spend some money to renovate it, to change it to where the birds wouldn't fly right into the damn windows. But that's one story I just remember when they built that stadium. But if it goes to Minneapolis, great. That's a good market. WrestleMania 41, or it's a market they haven't really been to a lot and never been up there for a WrestleMania. And that's a beautiful facility. And if they wind up getting WrestleMania 41, I think that's cool. PW Insider is also reporting that Tampa is being considered for the Royal Rumble. I guess it would be this one. They better nail down a location for the Royal Rumble. It's coming up in just a few months. I've been advocating for Petco Park here in San Diego for a long time because I think our weather would be good enough to where you could do it. It might be a little chilly, but no chillier than a WrestleMania in New York would be. So doing a Royal Rumble here at Petco Park, I think the park is beautiful. I think it would look awesome, and I wish they would do it, but they have yet to come here and have a big show in San Diego. But Tampa is looking like the likely spot for the Rumble, which I'm guessing it's going to be where the Tampa Bay Rays play, right? And that was also the very first home of the Thunderdome, right? Isn't that where they started? Was there, and then they moved on to Orlando, or maybe it was vice versa. I forget. Did you guys get a load of Matt Cardona wearing Chelsea Green's newly won tag team title to the DDT Pro event? Now, this got a lot of he got a lot of flack from like wrestling fans, and I just kind of thought that was funny. It's not really worth talking about. I just thought it was cool that I think he might have even worn a replica. I don't know if it was the actual belt of Chelsea Green, but the very fact that fans took time out of their day to express anger over this, I'm like, this is so hilarious. Why are people so unfun? Why do people refuse to have any fun? Why must they let everything, especially in a form of entertainment like professional wrestling that is purposely so fucking goofy, and they take this shit seriously, like they have a problem with it? And I just saw a lot of like complaining, a lot of just little whiny little man boys being little pricks about it. I'm like, Jesus Christ, lighten the fuck up, man. What do you do when you go to a party? You just stand there and complain about everything the whole time? Or you're like, can you lighten up? Jesus, man. I thought it was great. Also, Matt Cardona and Chelsea were with Cody and Brandy at the American Nightmare premiere, Cody's Peacock doc that I guess they did a red carpet premiere for. They were all together, and I even saw a picture of Cody holding the women's tag, and I'm like, why is he holding that? And it was probably because Chelsea and Brandy went off to the bathroom, and when the women do that, they give you their shit. They always do. They all do that. So Cody got stuck holding the women's tag team title too. I didn't see anybody coming after Cody. So if you were one of those people that got your little butt hurt over Matt Cardona wearing his wife's championship belt, you're probably never going to know what it's like to have a wife. Sorry to tell you. The Rock, got to shout out The Rock, donated a historic 7-figure amount to the SAG-AFTRA Foundation Relief Fund. The check that he wrote, like I said, 7 figures. This is going to help thousands of actors keep food on their tables, their cars running, their kids safe, roof over their heads, that type of thing. And that's pretty amazing, and that's pretty awesome that he did that because he's made so much money in Hollywood. It was nice for him to kick back a little bit because I think the majority of the public and all of Hollywood are really on the side of the actors and the writers here, and fuck these corporate CEOs. So hopefully the strike doesn't last too long. Luckily, I'm not that much of a TV or movie watcher, so I'm not missing out on anything other than Cobra Kai. Cobra Kai is in production, the final season right now, so this has affected that, but it's really the only thing in my life that the writer's strike really affects, but doesn't mean I'm not without sympathy, and I would love for these actors and these writers to get what's coming to them because just the business is changing and, all of the, what they're trying to get and negotiate in terms of like AI and stuff like that. Like, that's so crazy to know that your likeness can be generated now and just put into movies, and you need to be able to be compensated for that. I just downloaded ChatGPT for the first time last night and was fucking around with it, and that's AI on its most basic level, and I'm like, this is fucking freaky, man. So it's just think about where we're going to be in 20 years. It's going to be a completely different looking world. It almost is right now. But shout out to The Rock, very awesome gesture. That's why The Rock's the best. Why don't we talk about Raw now? Finally, since we've been talking for about an hour about everything but Monday Night Raw, but we'll start with Monday Night Raw. Then we will just talk a little bit about this past week's SmackDown. We will run through the SummerSlam card, and then we'll get into a little bit of blood and guts. Collision, Jungle Boy's big victory. If you see, I put some lady sunglasses on him on the overlay there. It was the only way I could think of to make him look like a heel. So he's got some ladies' Ray-Bans or whatever on him. But let's talk about Monday Night Raw. Let me cruise over here to the chat first and knock out this super chat from Mark. Appreciate another 5 from you, dude. I expect FTR to hold on to the belts for a full year until Aussie Open are ready to dethrone them. Aussie Open, they did mention them in their Collision promo. So, yeah, if that's where they're going to go, then FTR, a nice long run and dropping it to them would be pretty great. Max, no, I have not talked about Dom yet, but I'm about to. I'm going to be talking about Dom here in just a minute. 2 more from Mark. I didn't get that one either from earlier, dude. Sorry. Think Taz will turn on Hook and align with Jack. I don't know, man. We already have Billy against his sons, and given Taz's demeanor on commentary and stuff, he's given off no evidence or no hints that he would ever turn on his son. I've kind of liked Taz's attitude about Hook. He's like, he's a grown man. He can take care of himself. He knows he's a badass. And, even just on commentary last week, when Jungle Boy was like running away, Taz was like, I'm not too worried about it because in a shoot, I know my boy would whip his ass. So Taz would have to have an incredible change of heart to then align with Jack, especially when he's already acknowledged that his boy could fuck Jack up if it was a shoot. So I don't know. I wouldn't probably want to see that. No. But I did like the Jungle Boy and Hook match. Jack Perry didn't have shades. I know it doesn't matter if he had them or not. I just needed to make him look a little more heelish in this. And that was all I could think of. So you're just going to have to get over it. Michael, I don't think of AI. Well, you might have to start thinking about it because you might not want to think about it. And I feel that way about a lot of stuff. Some people feel that way about politics. I'm like, I don't want to think about it. Look, I'm like, look, I don't blame you, but that doesn't mean it's not here. That doesn't mean it doesn't exist. And, just because you're ignoring it doesn't mean it's not a big part of life. And with AI, it's like something like I feel like we just need to associate ourselves with just in case we need to know something about it just in case the shit hits the fan. And, we at least need to know what we're up against type of thing. So, just messing around with it and stuff is just a little freaky. And that's just what we have access to. Think about how advanced this stuff is to civilians. Think about what the government knows and shit. So who knows, man? It's a crazy world we're living in. And by the time, hell, I could probably program an AI to do this podcast for me in the future. I could write notes, give it to AI and say, generate me talking about this stuff, and use the thousands of videos I have on my channel to develop, my voice and my mannerisms and what my face looks like and my speech patterns and all of that. And it can probably just generate an image of me talking here. It's not even me. That's likely a thing that could happen, y'all, during my YouTube life here. So yikes. Maybe it could help us get this audience number up, man. We all call a couple people and have them join us. So glad you guys are here, though, by the way. Mike, I do not feel bad for Wesley at all. Fans need to get over that. My God. Just let the story play out. Let it play out, because I do feel like a redemption match is coming for Wesley. And like I said last week, before the match even happened, I said, imagine if that North American Championship rematch takes place on Raw and Wesley comes to Raw. Sean brings him there. I'm sick of this, Dominic. I want that fucking belt back. So you're going to face Wesley tonight on Raw. And then Wesley gets a big stage. Gets to show the Raw USA Network audience. Well, I guess he's already on USA, but he gets to show the Monday Night Raw crowd what he can do. Maybe some fans who don't watch NXT, not that familiar with him, gets a showcase, faces Dominic, and wins the belt back. Instead of winning it back in a gymnasium with 75 people watching, he's winning it back in the TD Garden in front of 12,000 people or something like that. Not that bad. So fans just they get so mad. They get so mad. Wesley was not done wrong in any way. This is a way to put a belt on Dominic for the Judgment Day storyline. That's all it is. Don't feel bad for people who don't need to be felt bad for. Wesley is fine. Kid's got the brightest as fuck future. These North American titles, these NXT championships, they're shit and shuffled around all the time. It will have no effect on his career or how big of a star he becomes. This loss here will affect none of that whatsoever. So stop being sad for Wesley. He's fine. He's absolutely fine. Let's get into Monday Night Raw tonight from, where were they? Shit. What city were they in? Damn it. It was on the tip of my tongue and I didn't write it down. Raw was in Tampa? Or were they in Orlando? I think they were in Tampa. I think they were in Tampa tonight, actually. I think they were. Anyway, doesn't matter. Raw tonight opened up with the Judgment Day, and only 3 members of Judgment Day. It's Rhea Ripley, Finn Balor, and Damian Priest. So no Dom Dom, which means Dom Dom was going to get his own introduction. And I loved this because last week, 1 week ago on this very podcast, 24 hours before, Dominic had his North American title match against Wesley on NXT. I said that I have a feeling tomorrow Dominic's going to win that championship. And I also said I had a feeling that fans would be mad. And I was right about both. And what I said last week was just what I said a minute ago. If he wins, it will probably be somewhat temporary because the Judgment Day is on fire right now. They are the top faction on Raw. And they've got a lot of trophies. Rhea is your dominant women's champion. Damian Priest has got the briefcase. Finn Balor might very well become world heavyweight champion in just a couple of weeks. And that leaves Dominic needing something. So send him down to NXT, pick up one of their titles. It's not a big deal. Sorry, my nose itches. I'm not picking my nose, and just itches. Send him down there, win a championship, and just the visual of Dominic and Rhea with their championships together. If you add Balor to that mix, at SummerSlam, that will also look really good. They will look really good together. And then you've got Damian Priest there with the briefcase. So in my mind, that's all this was just for Dominic. Now, I expect it to be a short run. I can't see Dominic hanging onto this thing forever, although main roster guys going to NXT has done pretty good ratings for them. They've had some pretty solid numbers to the point where now they're talking about making NXT a third brand again. They cannot make up their minds over there in Stamford. But I just can't see Dominic having that long of a run. I think this is done purely for Judgment Day reasons. Now, you could argue that you could have waited to do this until like the week before SummerSlam. We still have 2 more weeks until we get there. But, if Balor does end up winning the championship, then that's going to be a pretty awesome visual the night after SummerSlam. Well, you're really going to take the title off someone just for a visual, just for a photo op? Yeah, I absolutely am. We've seen this done time and time again. There's been lots of times throughout history where they want to put all the belts on a faction, and sometimes they just do it to do it, just because they want to do it. This is no different. And I think it looks pretty awesome if everybody in the faction has got some sort of trophy. And that would look very cool. So I got no issue with that. But the Judgment Day here still is very proud of their Dom Dom. And the 3 of them introduce Dominic. Rhea, finishes things off. Priest talks, then Balor talks, and then Rhea says, and Dominic, let me introduce you, Dirty Dom. But when she said Dirty Dom, I thought, because of her accent, I thought she said Daddy Dominic. And I even put it on Twitter. I'm like, oh, he's Daddy now? Is he still dirty? Is he Dirty Daddy Dominic? And then I realized that she didn't say Daddy Dominic. She said Daddy Dominic, which sounded like Daddy, and I just misheard. But Dominic's out there. He's got the belt. He gets his own introduction. The announcers mentioned, a pretty fantastic stat that Dominic main evented Raw, NXT, and SmackDown throughout the course of 1 week, because I guess I only watched highlights of SmackDown this week, so I didn't know that Butch and Dominic went on last. Is that true? So that means Raw, SmackDown, and NXT, and SmackDown last week, Dominic was in the main event of all 3 shows. That's pretty badass. So he comes out there, and I was so excited when I realized that they were going to announce him by himself, because the boos were going to be awesome, and they were. He comes out there, he's booed loudly. He tries to talk on the mic. They won't let him. Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens then come out to the aisleway, and Sami with a pretty funny line. He goes, Dominic, you're right. You are being disrespected. But the reason you're being disrespected is because no one here respects you, which was pretty fucking funny. And then Sami goes on to pitch a match with Dominic for the championship. And I think Dominic, says, you want to fight me or whatever? And Sami's like, yeah, I'll fight you. How about you man up and actually put that belt on the line? And then Rhea Ripley accepts on Dominic's behalf. So there's been a lot of that going on with Rhea. You have to wonder in the future if you get an eventual breakup or split between these two, if something like this has something to do with it. Because we've seen this before. We've seen a lot of tag team partners or managers or friends accept matches on the behalf of others, lay out examples. I know I've seen this like 20 times in wrestling where somebody steps in and says he accepts or she accepts. And of course that causes dissension. I think it would be funny whenever they break up Dominic and Rhea. I hope it's not anytime soon. I would love to see them go into the holidays still together because everything they did last year, showing up at Ray's house, was so great. So it would be fun to see them make it another Christmas together. But whenever that day comes, if they break up, it would be funny if Dominic actually broke up with her. Because we're all assuming that not only is she going to break up with Dominic, but she's going to beat the shit out of him. But maybe it's like Dominic telling her to peace out. Maybe Dominic cheats on her. Maybe they can do something like that and be really crazy. Otherwise, I wouldn't mind seeing a wedding. The wedding of Dominic and Rhea Ripley. Like if they do a segment where Dominic proposes, imagine that. Like they go out for tacos and she bites into the taco. Oh, it's a ring. Oh my gosh. And he gets down on one knee and he proposes to Rhea Ripley. However they do the proposal will be pretty funny. They could just do it right in the ring because that would get a lot of crowd response if Dominic's trying to pour his heart out to Rhea Ripley and he's getting emotional, talking about how much he loves her, and the crowd is just having none of it. They're throwing shit in the ring. And then finally he gets down and proposes in the middle of a chorus of boos, and him and Ripley, hug. And then you do the wedding. You do the wedding on Monday Night Raw. And I don't know how you end the wedding. Maybe you actually have the wedding. The nuptials are completed and these two become husband and wife. Or, Buddy Matthews could drop by and he could be the person that objects. I don't know. But if we got, just given how over not only Rhea is, but Dominic especially, how can you not do a wedding with these two? I feel like we need to see it. But I also feel like the wedding could be the end of it all. So a lot of times we see major shit go down in a wedding. So if you're going to end Rhea and Dominic, maybe the wedding itself is where it ends. That could be possible as well. I don't know. But anyway, later on, we're going to get a match between Sami Zayn and Dominic for the North American title. First match of the night is Becky Lynch taking on Zoe Stark. Stipulation in this match is if Becky wins, she gets her rematch with Trish. So finally, we are here. They've really been dragging this out. We have known Trish is going to face Becky Lynch at SummerSlam since May. We have known this forever. Actually, probably since WrestleMania, we've known this. So obviously, Becky is not going to lose to Zoe Stark again. I paid very little attention to this match because it was predictable as fuck. One thing I will say about Zoe Stark is she's awesome and underrated. Little pit bull. I love her. Watching this match, she's just better than Becky Lynch. I like Becky a lot, but I kind of see, that match showed me how underrated Zoe Stark is and how overrated Becky Lynch is in terms of ring work. But I still love the Baxter. Trish, of course, tries to get involved. I think there was a little miscue. She got knocked off the ring apron or whatever, and Becky hit the manhandle slam on Zoe Stark for the win, getting her match now with Trish. Backstage, they showed, I think it was on WWE's Twitter account. Is it even Twitter now or is it X? Don't even get me started on that. Jesus Christ. So over on the Xer, the Twitter X or whatever the hell, I saw a little video, backstage video of Trish being pissed off at Zoe Stark. So we'll see what happens there. Cody promo this week, pretty simple and straight to the point. Nothing special, just a way to get Cody out on TV so all of the fans can sing his song. Came out there wearing a suit. And I did like what he said about his mom in the promo because he talked about Brock attacking him in front of his family and his mom and his loved ones. But he's like, my mom has seen some shit, son. That ain't even close to the gnarliest stuff she's ever seen. He talked about her drinking with Gordon Soley and, watching all the crazy stuff that got done to her husband throughout the years. So basically, Cody's mom has witnessed a lot, and seeing Cody get F5'd on a ring mat in front of her is hardly the worst things she's ever seen. So he touted his mom's toughness and said that he will end this whole thing at SummerSlam. That's basically it. This whole thing ends at SummerSlam, and that's what we've been saying. Cody's post-WrestleMania feud was Brock. Now you have to wonder what Cody's post-SummerSlam feud is going to be, which we talked about earlier. Could be Bray Wyatt. Hope that it's not. but I really feel like it is because I don't know what Cody does. If Cody does not feud with Bray Wyatt or somebody who returns, I laid out a whole scenario with Randy Orton last week too. If Randy Orton showed up, obviously he has unfinished business with Riddle, but that doesn't mean he can't start something else at the same time. And if he does attack Cody and goes heel and then Riddle is confused, Randy, what are you doing? Cody's my friend. And Randy's like, look, you and I are still friends, but I've got my own agenda here. I'm cool with you, Riddle. I enjoyed and I appreciated our time together. But, I'm getting up there and, I need to get back to the world championship or whatever. So we're cool. I love you or whatever. Just don't get in my way. Leaving Riddle conflicted and Randy can still do his feud with Cody. I would rather see something like that than Bray Wyatt. And when I mentioned the Randy Orton feud too last week, I had a lot of people tell me, well, he's going to finish with Riddle. I'm like, he can. Don't worry about Riddle. Riddle will work itself out. But I think that would be fun because of Randy Orton and Cody's history. Plus, it gives Cody another big-time, legendary name to defeat on his road back to Roman Reigns whenever that day comes. So, straight to the point, Cody was in and out of there in just a few minutes. Always great to see the American Nightmare. After that, we have Sami Zayn challenging Dominic for the NXT North American title. Everybody was at ringside for this. We had Rhea Ripley and Damian Priest out there for Judgment Day, and Kevin Owens was backing up Sami Zayn. So Sami Zayn had a chance to walk out of here with 3 championships. Only one other man in the company have that many, and that's Roman Reigns. And you had a feeling that he was not going to win here because that would make even less sense. Dominic now dropping that title to Sami Zayn. What? Now I would have a problem with them taking it away from Wes Lee because now it doesn't make sense. Well, now you're passing it to Sammy. What the fuck? At least with Dominic, it's got a purpose on him. So I didn't think Sammy was going to win here, but I was curious how they were going to get out of this match without Dominic losing. So Kevin Owens winds up getting himself thrown out by the referee along with Damian Priest and Rhea Ripley. At first, they were laughing at Owens for getting caught, but then the referee goes ahead and throws them out as well, leaving Zayn and Dominic one-on-one. So I'm like, well, shit, now what do they do? I was thinking Balor would come in and attack or something. But instead, Rhea Ripley and Damian Priest reappear after they've been thrown out. They reappear through Gorilla out to the aisleway, laying a beatdown on Kevin Owens. And this distracts Sami Zayn, allowing Dominic to roll him up and pin him. So he actually beats Sami Zayn, retains the title. Judgment Day attacked Kevin Owens in the aisleway, and apparently his injury is legitimate. Now, I don't know much about it. I just saw a couple of tidbits on social media. I saw Sean Ross Sapp mention something about the injury being legitimate, but I do not know what the injury even is. I think they went after his ribs. Is that what's actually injured on him, or is it something else? Hopefully, if it's just ribs, that's just a matter of waiting for it to heal. Or if it's a knee or an ankle or a joint, that can be scarier. So hopefully whatever's going on with Kevin Owens does not keep him out too long. I was really hoping we would get an Owens and Zayn tag team title match at SummerSlam. If Owens was healthy, I think the logical choice there would be put them in the ring with Dominic and Damian Priest. I don't know what other match you would really do, but they might be left off the card completely. Don't really know. And Dominic is still the North American champion. So that's great. We'll see how long Dominic's run lasts. But what a week for Dom. And now Dom has got some gold. And I got no issue with that. I'm glad his run is going to continue. And like I said, for everybody sad for Wes Lee, don't be sad for him. Wes Lee is going to be just fine. And I'm pretty sure Wes Lee's going to win that championship back. I feel like that's a given, or somebody from NXT is going to win that championship back. And it would be cool if they got that done on Raw. Might as well. I mean, we've seen NXT guys coming up to the main roster occasionally and vice versa. At this point, what's the difference? The only thing that made no sense to me was this past week on SmackDown, which we'll talk about, the fact that Dominic, a Raw star who went to NXT to win the North American title, is now going to defend that title on SmackDown. Why even do a draft? What was the point of the draft if you could do shit like that? But at this point, all that stuff is a minor nitpick to me. They're never going to have a real brand split or a real draft, and they're never going to honor what they say. So I guess I've kind of accepted it, and all I'm looking for is good quality TV. If they want to gum up their rules and just do whatever, As long as the TV's good and I'm entertained, I really don't care about that stuff anymore. Backstage after Dom's win, they run into Apollo Crews and Tozawa. Tozawa just immediately runs away from Rhea Ripley, and Damian Priest ends up getting in the face of Apollo Crews. Crews challenges Priest to a match, and we'll be getting that later on one-on-one. Bronson Reed took on Tommaso Ciampa next. Backstage, Ciampa told Nakamura to stay out of his business, which, of course, Nakamura did not. Showed up to distract Ciampa. Big tsunami for the win, and we've got a Ciampa and Nakamura feud brewing it now. Backstage, we get a Liv Morgan interview. She's all riled up. She's mad. She's pissed because Rhea Ripley fucked up her friend Raquel. Sonya and Chelsea show up after Liv runs off, and they start talking smack to Rhea briefly until Rhea comes into frame, and they're like, "Oh, we were just talking about you, about how dominant and awesome you are," and immediately backpedaled there. And then Rhea says she's going to take out Liv Morgan next, and we have a one-on-one match between Liv Morgan and Rhea Ripley. So Liv is making her entrance, and Ripley just out of nowhere attacks her, comes through the crowd, hops the barricade or something, nails Liv Morgan, brings her into the ring, and Pillmanizes her arm twice. Good selling by Liv Morgan, too, doing a pretty good job of putting that over, screaming and crying, and ow, and ow, and ow. That was pretty badass. Ripley was vicious. I mean, Rhea was absolutely brutal in that. Zero remorse. I kind of liked it. You know, I like Rhea Ripley better than my sister. You know, hopefully now Liv will learn to keep her nose out of other people's business. She used to do that shit when we were kids too. Always getting in everybody else's business. Finally, justice has been served. That's what you get, sis. Ripley, good job, girl. I see, you can break my sister's arms. I can't. Cops will come. So I'm glad that you were able to get that done and Pillmanized the arm twice. So now Liv is out. Raquel is out. I still think this is going to lead now to Raquel coming back and attacking Ripley, and we're going to get a SummerSlam match, Ripley and Raquel Rodriguez. At least that's what I hope we're going to get. I feel like Ripley's got to have a match on the card. We know Asuka, Bianca, and Charlotte will have their three-way. That's a match we've sniffed out ever since Charlotte's return. But Ripley and Raquel feels like that needs to happen. We have 2 more Raws left, right? Or no, next week should be the go home. We got 1 more Raw left. So my guess is that next Monday, Raquel will attack Ripley and challenge her to SummerSlam or something like that, right? You can see that coming. Another thing you could see coming was what Ricochet was going to say, because how often does Ricochet get a promo in the ring? You know, so there are cameras backstage showing Ricochet. Ricochet's coming to the ring to address Logan Paul, so you know what this is going to be about. He's going to challenge him to a match at SummerSlam. So he did. Challenges Logan to SummerSlam, to a match at SummerSlam. Logan Paul then shows up, nails Ricochet from behind, and then gets on his phone and accepts the challenge on a phone. So that's probably a TikTok or whatever the hell by now. And as he's talking smack to the phone, and my favorite line is he's talking shit to the fans, and he says, "Why don't you go get laid, loser?" What did he say? I have it written down. Shit, I have to see it now because it just cracked me up. And I laughed because sometimes the simplest insults will get the biggest pop out of me. He just said, "You need to get laid, you stupid virgin." But it was the way he said, "You need to get laid, you stupid virgin." It's such a stupid insult, but I laughed so hard. It was great. I really liked what Logan Paul was doing. Ricochet recovers, by the way, and he super kicks Logan Paul right in his dumb face. And we now have our match set. We already knew this was going to be our match weeks ago, but now it is official. Logan Paul versus Ricochet. And that's going to be some fun shit. You know, they had that close call at Money in the Bank where they had to recover from that Spanish fly or whatever it was through the tables. And if Logan Paul's matches with Rollins and Roman were something, this one's probably going to be pretty gnarly. So I'm looking forward to it. I think it's going to be fun. And I think Logan Paul is going to beat him, unfortunately. Damian Priest took on Apollo Crews, and Damian Priest beat him. There was no doubt about that one at all. It was just a match thrown together backstage. Priest is senior Money in the Bank. Keep him rolling. Beat Apollo Crews. Nothing to say about that at all. Next, we had the big face-off between Drew McIntyre and Intercontinental Champion Gunther. And again, much like the Ricochet thing, I had no interest in this because I just knew it was going to lead to a match between Gunther and Drew at SummerSlam. So Gunther and Drew are in the ring. I don't give Gunther enough credit for being really good on the mic. I liked what he was saying. He's going to be something, man. Gunther is just going to be, he's going to be a big deal. I'm ready for, imagine if that match happened between Gunther and Roman. How the hell would you even book that? What would you even do? Imagine this match is happening at SummerSlam, Gunther and Roman Reigns. And imagine if it's, a few months later, at WrestleMania and it's Gunther and Reigns there. How do you even book that? I mean, I know we all want to see Cody finish the story, but who is a credible threat really right now to Roman Reigns? Cody is really the only guy. Roman's already had his battles with Brock, but there's this guy, there's this bubbling star, who's basically already there. He's legit. He's a bona fide badass. He's believable. And he does have moments of invincibility to him. And it's like, could Cody get the shit end of the stick here? Like if you're in Triple H's shoes and Gunther just continues to dominate through the end of the year to where, even the fans are like, he is the most dominant guy in all of professional wrestling right now. And he develops, that Brock level of believability to him. How do you not book him against Roman Reigns? It's almost like, okay, Cody, I know that was our plan, but look what we have here. Imagine back in 1989, if WWE would have told Mr. Perfect, hey, we're going to build you to wrestle Hogan in the main event of WrestleMania 6. And they tell him that in the summer of 89. He's like, great. But then the Ultimate Warrior just gets more and more popular, and that he's obviously the strongest guy in the company. And like, how do you not do this match? Sorry, Perfect. We got to put Warrior against Hogan. Something like that. I worry that maybe that could happen to Cody if Gunther's future is going to be too tough to ignore. Like, you can't wait forever for him. I would love to see him just keep running with the Intercontinental title and perhaps never even lose it. Maybe do something like that. Maybe he fucking retires that belt, or not retires the belt, but how Asuka kind of forfeited the NXT, maybe after he breaks Honky's record, and let's say he goes till the end of the year. Let's say he makes it to some sort of milestone that especially in modern times, ain't no Intercontinental champion ever going to come close to holding the title that long again. If this guy goes on a 1.5 year long run, 2-year long run. But I mean, if he makes it to like the end of the year, and he wins like the Royal Rumble, and now he's going to get a championship match at WrestleMania, he's going to be forfeiting the belt anyway. If he wins the title as Intercontinental champion, I would love to see Gunther do that, for him to, bring that amount of prestige back to the Intercontinental title, so much so that he never even lost it. It might be just what the belt needs to make it important again, even though it's uglier than a gorilla turd. I still think, Gunther has done a phenomenal job with that championship. So McIntyre and Gunther are face to face. Drew wants a match tonight for the Intercontinental title, and Gunther's like, no, that's stupid. Ludwig Kaiser then gets involved, and Drew is like, hey, I like you. You're pretty good. I think you should be the leader of Imperium, and tries to cause dissension. They attack Drew. Riddle comes out to try to make the save, but he gets power bombed by Gunther. Gunther then sets his sight on McIntyre, who's on the outside of the ring, starts taking all the shit off the announce table to put Drew through it, but Drew recovers and ends up hitting a power bomb on Gunther through the table. Gunther takes a hell of a bump through the table. Really good segment there. And I guess that pretty much acted as our official announcement for Gunther and McIntyre at SummerSlam for the Intercontinental title. Now, I still don't know, so maybe you guys can help me out in the chat. I still don't know the status of Drew McIntyre's contract. When he came back, I don't know if that means he's re-signed or if he is still not re-signed. And I've heard that he hasn't, but I don't know. I haven't really read a report on this. But if he still has not renegotiated or re-signed his contract, and it is in fact up at the end of the year, then obviously Gunther just needs to beat him here. But with WWE's, hiring freeze and the sale to Endeavor, this might have actually cock-blocked Drew McIntyre. Maybe that's why he has maybe that's why he's far off on these negotiations. If that's still in fact the case, is because WWE, maybe they're handcuffed a little bit with the sale, and the transition going on, and they can't really offer any big money contracts right now. And I'm just speculating if that's the case, but imagine if it was, and imagine Drew McIntyre's just fucked up WWE luck. First, COVID takes away his opportunity to win the championship in the main event of WrestleMania by beating the most dominant wrestler that's ever lived. He lost that opportunity. Now, years later, WWE sells, merges with Endeavor right around the time that his contract is up, that he would be up for renegotiation. And now they can't offer him a lot, or maybe they can even use as Endeavor as the scapegoat. Like if they want to save some money, look, we'd love to offer you more, but they can pass the buck and blame them. Oh, I can't really offer you more because of whatever. So maybe Drew's going to test the free agent market. Maybe he's just going to see what Tony Khan will offer him. And because of the MLW lawsuit and everything going on with that right now, WWE is probably laying off a lot of the, the conversations and tampering, and AEW is probably doing the same thing. So maybe you can't really determine your future until your contract actually runs out. So if that's McIntyre's plan, if he's either number one leaving or at the very least going to test the free agent market when his contract is up in a couple of months, Gunther has to beat him here. Gunther has to beat him clean here. You know what I mean? But if not, and Drew's sticking around and he's going to be WWE for life, I think WWE would be idiots to let him go. He's a cornerstone foundation member of their roster. That I just think is a company guy. I like McIntyre. I just think the dude's incredible. I would not want to lose him if I was WWE. And if he went to AEW, there'd be no guarantees for him over there either. The grass would be greener. Not necessarily, it's still very crowded over there in AEW, and they'd have to find, weekly TV for him, because at least in WWE, when he's healthy and he is on the roster, he's on TV every week. That's one thing that WWE does with their roster that AEW doesn't. And I wish the two companies could kind of balance out a little bit, because, if you're healthy and on the roster and you're a top tier star, you are on the show every week in WWE. And if you're not on the show, fans, what do? They ask, hey, where's so-and-so? He wasn't on the show tonight. Why wasn't so-and-so on the show tonight? I'm like, maybe he just wasn't on the show tonight. Where in AEW, sometimes that happens so much where people are off the show like Miro for 3.5 years with no explanation. So there's got to be a balance between just forgetting about guys for 3 months and having them on TV every single week where they have to be involved in some sort of a segment somewhere. It is okay to leave someone off. And I'm talking about a big star. I know, the Tozawas and the Apollo Cruzes are left off TV all the time, but anybody involved in storylines or any major storylines, it's okay, to not be there. Not everybody can be like Roman, but WWE generally finds a spot for everybody on the show to continue their storylines, even if it's completely pointless. That's why we see a lot of empty and soulless and meaningless promos and backstage segments, because they just put them out there. Just here, Sonya and Chelsea. Did they need to be in that backstage segment tonight? What else did they do on the show? Nothing, but they found a place for them there. That's where they were. So WWE does it too much. AEW doesn't do it enough. It's like there's got to be a balance of some kind. But anyway, Gunther and Drew, depending on what Drew's future is, I have no idea. Everything we do here is just speculative. But if Drew hypothetically is leaving, then Gunther's got to win either way, regardless of what Drew's future is. I'm not going to shut up about this until September 8th, but Gunther needs to break Honky Tonk Man's record. He has to. If he drops that title to Drew McIntyre a month before he reaches this milestone, I'm going to throw a hissy fit, man. So whatever happens at SummerSlam, I need Gunther to be Intercontinental Champion when it's over. End of story. Ronda Rousey had a little quickie backstage. Last week, they gave her way too many words to say in her promo. This week, they did it right. They kept it to like one line or something like that. Now, earlier, Shayna Baszler was interviewed backstage. She challenged Ronda Rousey to a fight. Now, Ronda last week said that they're going to have a match at SummerSlam, so we already knew that. Shayna says, I don't want a match, I want a fight. So Ronda here accepts Shayna's challenge for a fight. So we're one step closer now to getting that fight pit match or Lion's Den or something like that involving these two. It definitely sounds like it's going to have a MMA theme to it of some kind. And They might tie in a loser leaves town or a retirement match. So far, they haven't even hinted to that. So if Ronda is going to be leaving the company, it might not be right after SummerSlam. She might stick around a couple of more months after that and finish off her program with Shayna. If they were going to do that, then maybe Ronda even wins at SummerSlam. Maybe Ronda wins and then Shayna wins the next two matches after that, including the blow-off. We'll see. Ronda and Shayna is set for SummerSlam. And then finally in the main event, we have the contract signing. No Adam Pearce for this. Balor's out there all by himself, and he says, we don't need Pearce. We can probably handle this on our own. So Seth comes out there, and they talk a little bit of smack on the mic. Judgment Day starts coming through the crowd, all of them. So you got Priest, Rhea, and Dominic come through the crowd. They surround the ring. Seth is all by himself, and he gets attacked. And they're all working him over. Sami Zayn tries to run in and help out, but he's overwhelmed. We get the coup de grace to Seth Rollins by Finn Balor, and Judgment Day leaves Seth laying. So if you do kind of like the math here, Judgment Day got the upper hand tonight on Seth, just like last week when Balor attacked him in that little sit-down crap. Next week, I think Seth will get an element of revenge. I think he will get some revenge on one or all of them. There will be some sort of a segment where he will beat down Balor and stand over him holding the title. And then maybe that takes Balor into SummerSlam to win the championship, because we're still a week or so away from doing our predictions, but I want Balor to win the title. I do. I want him to win the title. I think it would be a cool story. They're referencing the 2016 match a lot. That was 7 years ago. When we were younger, 7 years was a lifetime. Now it feels like a day and a half. 2016 feels like yesterday to me. But 7 years is a long time. That's a hell of a story. Same two men, same pay-per-view for a championship, a brand new championship, an inaugural championship, just like before. And I think it would be really fun if Balor beats Rollins with a whole bunch of help from Judgment Day, whatever. He can cheat his balls off. I don't care. But just beat Rollins, become World Heavyweight Champion. And then the very next night on Raw, or I'm sorry, 2 days later, because I think SummerSlam's a Saturday, on Raw the next week, or the first Raw after SummerSlam is what I'm laboring to say here. Balor is celebrating, and then he gets turned on by Damian Priest. Priest cashes in, and twice now, Balor beats Seth Rollins for a world championship at SummerSlam and loses the title the next day. 2016, he had to hand it over because he was injured. 2023, gets cashed in on. So it's 2 world title wins with no runs. Didn't get a chance to run with either of them. So now his anger has shifted from Rollins. He's exercised that demon. And then now somebody hit him with a fucking another one. And Damian Priest just took away. I thought you were my friend. You took away. You knew how much this moment meant to me. You knew that it was my goal and my passion to right the wrong of 2016 and what happened to me. You knew how important that was to me. And then Priest is like, you're damn right I did. And it was because of how important it was to you that I was able to use it against you. And then you got their issue, and then maybe Seth can stay in the middle of that too, and we have a couple triple threats or something. I don't know. But Judgment Day, given how over they are and how successful the faction has been, I would put the belt on Balor. Balor's, Triple H always liked Balor. He put 2 NXT titles on him, didn't he? And they definitely liked Balor enough to make him their inaugural Universal Champion. So maybe this time, he gets an actual run. Now, my idea of Priest cashing in doesn't have to happen. I just think it would be a cool story if it happened to Balor again, twice. And then maybe he does, then you have Priest as champion, and then maybe Balor beats Priest for the title a few months after that. You give Priest a small run with the championship, and then Balor beats him in the blow-off, and then finally wins the championship, and now finally has a chance to have a run with it. Maybe even book that match for the Royal Rumble. Damian Priest, Finn Balor at the Rumble for the championship. Balor wins the title back, and then he's going into WrestleMania to face either the winner of the Rumble or winner of the Elimination Chamber. We don't even know. But something like that would be fun. So I'm kind of rooting for Balor right now to win the title. But that doesn't mean I think he's gonna. They might keep it on Seth. But I don't think Roman's dropping the belt, so we should do a title change. Don't you think? Okay, thank you for that, Andy. Drew's contract does in fact come up in January 2024. We have not heard any reports of him re-upping as of yet. Maybe he has, maybe that information's not available. I don't know. The people that I get my wrestling news from, I have not seen anything from them, but maybe we'll get word on that. Either way, I just hope it works out for Drew. He's had some shitty luck, and if the Endeavor sale prevents him from getting a big bag, I would feel really bad, because that's the second time now he's been cock blocked over something stupid. So, Zach, WWE's saving up money for the MJF fund. They might be. They might be. Daniel, Malcolm, good to see you. Man, I want to say this properly. Greetings from Nakasangola? Nakasangola? Nakasangola. Nakasangola. Man, I suck at saying words, dude, but greetings. Let's wait, maybe I won't include the exclamation point. Oh, Uganda. Holy moly. Right on. So you are in the district in the central region of Uganda. Welcome, Daniel. Thank you so much for being here. You might be my first Ugandan super chat. Thank you very much, my friend. And welcome. Riddle turning heel soon. He should be a heel. He should be just a douchey, kind of heel. I think the problem with Randy Orton coming back and trying to revisit that is that, Riddle's different. Riddle went through that suspension. I don't know if that goofy, gullible, almost childlike Riddle would really get over now, if it would be the same. I just think not too much time has passed, but Randy and Riddle should still have something to do with each other, even if Riddle winds up turning heel. But yeah, he needs to do something because just the plain old Riddle just is kind of played out by now. And a lot of that's partially his own behavioral doing in the company. I don't know, but I really hope Randy Orton comes back too at some point. Hey, Jay Lambo, don't talk about my sister that way. Oh yeah, Zach, we could be seeing a triple threat with Rhea, Raquel, and Liv. I kind of just think like Rhea and Raquel is just a better, just one-on-one match to have, rather than, pitting, another team against each other. Liv Morgan and Raquel, now they have to both fight for the title when they've really been defending each other. I think maybe Liv is just sticking up for her friend, and then she got fucked up, and now her friend is going to come back and try to avenge her, and they're just using that as the vessel to get you to Ripley and Rodriguez. But I don't know. Zane says too much Judgment Day on Raw. I personally don't think so, but I don't have a problem with that opinion because they are on Raw a lot. There's 4 members of that faction. So when you have 4 members of the faction and all of those 4 are wrestlers and a couple of them are champions, that means every week you're going to have multiple matches. So tonight we had a Dominic match. We had a Damian Priest match. They all had shit to do. Rhea was supposed to have a match, but she just decided to choose violence instead, which is why she's the best. And then, of course, the contract signing with Balor and Seth Rollins. So, yeah, a faction with 4 members that are over are going to have lots of segments on the show. That's true with the Bloodline, too, a little bit. It was true with the NWO. It was true with a lot. It was really true with the NWO. Sometimes every damn match on the card would feature an NWO member on any given Nitro. So there's a lot of them. There's a lot of Judgment Day, but Judgment Day is awesome. I mean, I'm a big fan of everybody in the faction. And so it's hard for me to have an issue with it because Rhea Ripley might be my favorite women's wrestler ever. I have been, for those of you who've been listening to me for a long time, when I first saw her, I talk a lot about Sol Ruca that way now. But when I first saw Rhea Ripley, when she started transitioning away from that blonde Charlotte lookalike in NXT, and I'm like, oh man, that girl is the real deal. I said in 2019, that was my phrase. She is the real deal. She is the real deal. She is the real deal. And I've been vindicated. She is the real deal. So hopefully I will be right about Sol Ruca as well, because, man, so I really am all about her. I think she's going to be tremendous. I think she's going to be everything we wanted a Charlotte to be and more, even though Charlotte's a tremendous wrestler. But Ripley's badass. I think she's great. Dominic, I have completely fallen in love with the kid. I didn't want anything to do with him when he was just raised babyface little son. I'm like, get this kid out of here. Now he's all I want. Just give me 3 hours of Dominic. I'm probably going to be okay with it. That sweet ass mullet he's got, them sexy tats. Of course, the street cred he's got now for his time spent in the clink. He's a hard ass man. He's the real deal. He's the real deal, that Dominic. I've always been a fan of Finn Balor. Damian Priest has just been impressive ever since, he turned up in NXT. He's got this awesome vibe of like 1994 Razor and Undertaker combination, with the leather and the purple and the razor's edge. And he's just fantastic. And I'm happy that he's got that briefcase because that tells me they're going to belt him. I think Damian Priest will successfully cash that thing in. I think that was the whole point of giving it to him. Don't know when, don't know the circumstances. If he's going to do it on Balor or if he's going to wait until it's somebody else. And unless Seth retains and then he comes and cashes in on Seth, that's one possibility we didn't talk about in the Balor and Rollins match, is that if Seth Rollins wins, does Priest cash in on him? It could be Priest walking out as champion. They could do that. That actually wouldn't surprise me. If they did something like that, Seth retains and then gets cashed in on instead of Balor winning the title and then Balor getting cashed in on. But it depends. If they do it that way, that means Judgment Day stays together because Judgment Day is extremely over right now. So that seems more likely than my pitch of Priest cashing in on Balor the night or the Raw after SummerSlam, even though I think that would make a cool story for that to happen to Balor twice at SummerSlam against Rollins for a championship and then losing it the next night. It might be the better story to keep Judgment Day intact at least a little while longer, to have Rollins beat Balor in a really hard fought match, and then maybe Dominic or Rhea or Balor himself continue the post-match beatdown and then Priest comes in and wins the title. Or if he just comes in and cashes in and Balor didn't really know he was going to do it, but the match was over and you can't really be that mad at him for it. So Balor's like cool with it, but you can tell he's got a jealousy issue or he's very disappointed that he didn't win the championship at SummerSlam, but now he has to watch his stablemate with the same belt and he's got to try to pretend to be happy for this guy. So I kind of think that would work too. That could definitely work. Either way, there is story to be told on Raw. Imagine Jay winning and Damian cashing in. I can't see that, Max. That's a little bit too much. Jey Uso may be given the Luger treatment at SummerSlam. Possibly, Zane. I mean, if WWE wanted to really get nuts, they could put the belt on Jay. We're going to talk about Jay right now, by the way. SmackDown this past Friday was on FS1. They were very much down in their rating, but that wasn't their fault. That just shows you the power of being on Fox. 1.2 million apparently on FS1. This was kind of headlined. They had a few things happen on the show. And the major one was kind of the contract signing for Jey Uso and Roman Reigns. Now, they have the table out there. Roman Reigns kind of signs the contract. He passes it to Jey, and Jey tears it up. And he goes, "We don't need this. This is tribal combat now." And as soon as he says tribal combat, Roman Reigns is like, like it means something to him. This is tribal combat. And apparently anything goes in tribal combat, I guess. And Roman says, "Do the elders know about this?" And Jay's like, "It was their idea, Oos." So apparently the elders, I'm guessing, are Sika and Afa and maybe Rikishi, said this should be a tribal combat match or something. And so Roman takes the thing off and he kind of lays it on the belt, and him and Jey have this moment together where they shake hands and they touch heads, like this ceremonial last moment of respect before they kill each other. It's like in Karate Kid 2, where, the day before you're about to fight for the death, you have this ritual. You have to kneel down and do all these praying things, and you stay away from your opponent, or you're peaceful with your opponent until it's time to, murder him. And that was kind of like what this was. And Solo's got a problem with this. He's not liking to see, he doesn't like seeing this weak side of Roman, and you can tell they're planting seeds for something there too. And so after the little handshake thing, Roman goes to walk away. Solo wants to nail Jay with a spike, but Roman stops him. And Solo winds up getting super kicked, and Jay and Roman kind of have like this long stare down. So in terms of the match and what the commentators were putting over here, apparently Roman Reigns not only putting his title on the line, but he's putting his tribal chiefdom on the line. So him taking off the thing, I forget what it's called, and laying it on the belt. If Jay wins, he's going to be the tribal chief. So everything is on the line here for Roman, not just his championship, but his very identity is on the line here against his cousin. And, you know, maybe it was one of the weaker bloodline segments, but I was still super intrigued by it. I was. And in a match where, you know, deep down, I think all of us in our hearts, we don't believe Jay is going to be winning this title. What if they did it? You know, what if they did have Jay win the championship? I mean, it would be shocking as hell. It would create a lot of debate, but in terms of the story, it makes perfect sense. I mean, this is something that goes back 3 years with these guys. So if you see how all of this started, you know, in those early issues and matches that Jay and Roman Reigns had, how Jay became main event Jay. For it to culminate here, all this come full circle and he wins the title, it would be amazing. So I wouldn't have a problem with it at all. I feel like the plan is still to go with Roman. Someone with his, you know, with a run like his, you know, you got to have that end at the right moment. Maybe they passed up an opportunity at WrestleMania 39. Maybe they didn't. Maybe they have another one at WrestleMania 40, but that's still a ways off. And will this be Roman Reigns' last title defense for a while? If he's successful here, when does he defend the belt again? Maybe Survivor Series or whenever there's a Saudi show. That's possible as well, but don't really know. But Jay and Roman, their SummerSlam match, even though it feels like obviously Roman's probably going to retain, we should always at least entertain the idea that maybe he won't. And if he didn't, how you would book it for him to lose and how Jay would get that moment. You know, I think one way to have Jay lose here is to have Jay basically have Roman beat. And in his mind, he is just 5 seconds away from becoming the tribal chief and the WWE champion. He's about to be the man. He's about to be who Roman Reigns has been for the last 3 years. All he's got to do is cover Roman and pin him. And in comes his brother, who super kicks him or turns on him or whatever. Jimmy Uso sides with Roman for whatever reason. And then you build the Jay and Jimmy at WrestleMania, something like that. I don't know, but we'll have fun talking about it in the next couple of weeks. Charlotte defeated Io Sky one-on-one. After the match, Asuka came in and attacked Charlotte, and I think it is official. We do have Charlotte, Bianca, and Asuka in a triple threat for the women's title at SummerSlam, and I mentioned this match about 2 months ago. I'm like, what you do is you do the triple threat at SummerSlam and have Io Sky cash in there, but it depends on what they are going to do with Priest. I don't think we're going to do 2 cash-ins on the same night. I don't know what the plan is for Io right now, if she'll cash in or not, but she did take an L to Charlotte on Friday. Like I said earlier, LA Knight did not win that U.S. title invitational that we kind of thought he would, setting up a match with him and Austin Theory. Instead, it was Rey Mysterio who defeated LA Knight, Cameron Grimes, and Sheamus in that 4-way to become the number 1 contender for the U.S. title. When is that match going to happen? We don't know. I don't think it's going to be on SummerSlam. It doesn't feel like it. Feels like they would do it on TV, but maybe it's Rey and Theory at SummerSlam. I'd rather see LA Knight and Theory. Maybe they do Theory and Rey on TV and Theory survives, and then they can still last minute book LA Knight and Austin Theory, but probably not. So what a fall from grace, you know, Austin Theory bragging about this win against John Cena that was probably one of John Cena's least remembered matches. I mean, I barely even I was at WrestleMania 39. I barely have any memory of Theory and Cena because it was so meaningless. We felt like we knew which way that match was going to go. Cena coming back, putting over a young kid, whatever. But he ain't connecting. He ain't clicking. Nobody gives a shit about Austin Theory. So they might just leave him off the card entirely. But Rey is going to get a shot at the U.S. title. And later on in the night, Santos Escobar defeated Austin Theory one-on-one in a match that looked pretty clean to me. So Could this be Rey Mysterio then beating Austin Theory for the championship and then passing the championship to Santos Escobar? Or could Escobar's win get him a championship match against Austin Theory? But Rey has already got one, and maybe they do a triple threat. I don't know. But it sounds like they might be setting up here for these LWO members to have, kind of a torch passing. Rey has already endorsed Santos. There's really not much more endorsing he can do. But if the two of them have a match together per se, maybe this is somebody that Rey wants to put over, because you got to pass the torch somehow. And you can't really pass it to his son right now, who he's on the outs with. So maybe they're doing that. I don't know what they're going to do with the U.S. title at SummerSlam. Sounds like we might not even get a match. And then finally on Friday, we did get Dominic taking on Butch for the North American title. Pete Dunne, of course, a former North American champion. And Shawn Michaels was there in the house for this. And Dominic was able to survive. Pretty Deadly was out there. They were run off. Rhea wound up clipping Butch, his legs on the apron, and then Dominic grabbed him, drug him in the ring, rolled him up, and pinned him for the win. And Dominic retained the title on SmackDown, so it was a very, very big week for Dom. Here's what we have for SummerSlam. Roman Reigns versus Jey Uso, Cody Rhodes versus Brock Lesnar, Seth Rollins versus Finn Balor, Asuka defending her title against Charlotte and Bianca in a triple threat, Trish versus Becky Lynch, Logan Paul versus Ricochet, Gunther versus Drew McIntyre, Shayna Baszler versus Ronda Rousey, and possibly Rhea Ripley and Raquel Rodriguez. It feels like they're going to do that. Doesn't look like we're going to get a U.S. title match unless we do. And we don't know the status of Kevin Owens, whether or not him and Sami Zayn will be defending the tag team titles. If Owens is hurt, they probably will be off the show as well. So let me know if I'm missing any matches there for SummerSlam, and we will now get into some AEW. Let me knock out another super chat that's coming in before we keep rolling. Sorry for this very, very late podcast here, but keep clicking that thumbs up button for me. I'd appreciate it. Mike, are you the next one? Yes, Mike. Thank you so much, dude, for the $2. Rikishi in Jay's corner at SummerSlam. I don't know. Not if it's a tribal combat match. I feel like the family is giving these men their blessing to go out there and do what they have to do to each other. And being out there it's not, they don't really have a place. It's not their business. It's between these guys. And I think that's the whole point of the match, is that everybody stays out and let these guys do their thing. Solo will probably still be out there. And we probably will see Jimmy as well, because he was taken off to the hospital. So Jimmy will either be there to back up Jay or turn on Jay. And the whole thing should be interesting. We will see. Daniel, Malcolm, 5 more from you. Welcome, my friend. I love how Ricochet mentioned being away from family when he's got a whole ass fiance seated right there. That is true. I didn't even think about that. He was talking about working their asses off, and Logan just gets to come in and out whenever he wants and that type of thing. But yeah, his girl is right there at the timekeeper's table with that tremendous voice of hers. WWE even helped him out. And I said that too. I said, Ricochet, he's going to have to be on the same brand as Samantha. Like when they drafted him to Raw, I'm like, they're not going to leave Samantha over on SmackDown. And sure enough, they brought her to Raw. Oh, who will I get the next call up after SummerSlam? Is it time for Braun Breaker finally? Jesus, man. Been calling for Braun Breaker's call up forever. Yeah, Jimmy turning on Jay doesn't really make sense, but I feel like they might still do it. Feels like they'd be going around in circles a little bit doing that, but if Roman wins, maybe this is a win that Roman actually wins. That is one problem I've had with Roman's dominance, is that he has needed a lot of help to win, and he's needed a lot of help from his bloodline members. And maybe this is one he can finally win on his own with nobody else's help. But Solo is going to have to be out of there or something for that to actually happen. It has been almost 2 hours into this podcast. We haven't even started talking about AEW yet, so let's get into that so I don't keep you guys up all night, but I do appreciate you being here. Let's talk a little bit about Dynamite this past week first, because you guys have not heard what I had to say, or what I have to say about Blood E Guts. And I like the match. These type of matches are always crazy. When I compare it to the other Blood and Guts off the top of my head, it's about the same thing. A lot of thumbtacks, a lot of blood. I love the Northern Lights spot on the top of the cage with Matt and whoever that was. I think maybe Yuta. Of course, this was Kota Ibushi's big AEW debut. He was named the fifth member there of the Golden Elite, and the Blackpool Combat Club announced their members as Pac and Takeshita. So Takeshita did not surprise anyone. Pac kind of did. Would have been great if Danielson could have been in this match, but Pac was a pretty good substitute. But since, Pac isn't a member of this faction, and neither really is Takeshita, it was going to be hard for the Golden Elite, who know each other very well, to actually lose this match. And I think, with this, I've always been really critical of WWE when they had the Hell in the Cell pay-per-view, and even the Elimination Chamber pay-per-view and the TLC pay-per-view. Putting that stupid shit on your calendar, and like how they might be doing, I guess they've done away with it, but it would be the case with War Games too, at Survivor Series, is that a blood and guts concept, for me personally, is better off being used when you have a reason to use it. Now, the Elite and Blackpool Combat Club, luckily in this instance, their issue did warrant a blood and guts match. So they weren't pulling this out of their ass. But we have seen this in WWE a few times where they're like, oh, Hell in the Cell's on the calendar. We got to make a couple of Hell in the Cell matches. And it's just like nothing builds to it, So they got lucky here. But if they're going to put this on the calendar in July every year, that means they got to make sure they got a blood and guts worthy issue brewing on their roster every year at that time. And to have to worry about that instead of just letting your storylines, just grow and flow organically and take them in whatever directions you need, you start WWEing yourself here when you have stuff like blood and guts that you have to worry about every single July. I think blood and guts should be a concept match that can be busted out in December, in March, in August, any month of the year, whenever you need it. TV, pay-per-view, doesn't matter. Whenever you have an angle, an issue, or a storyline between a bunch of dudes or women, and there's alliances being formed, and it's a brutal feud, it's personal, it's vicious, violent, all that stuff, stick it in one of these things. But don't have it on your calendar to where you have to possibly manufacture something that doesn't feel authentic. You know what I mean? Does that make sense? So I was okay with it this year, but I feel like the blood and guts concept could get a little old if they run into a match that's lackluster. And this one wasn't getting rave reviews from everybody. There were critics of this match. It looks like production missed a few spots. They kind of even missed the finish. I didn't even realize that Moxley was the one that gave up. I thought it had something to do with Yuta. And not being in position for some of that on camera. Takeshita walking out, you could barely see him. I think it was Excalibur that had to tell us like what was going on. Same thing with Pac. I think Pac, what did he cut the bolts off and left or whatever? So the BCC just got abandoned by their dudes. But, aside from those issues, it was still very cool to see Kota Ibushi finally in AEW. And Kota Ibushi, physically he looked a little bigger, but he hasn't wrestled much. He's had, 3 matches since 2021? Like, the dude's barely wrestled at all, and he is completely nuts. I thought it was no coincidence that AEW had those guidelines come out of, moves that you need permission for or outright banned stuff right before Ibushi came in. And as you saw after the match, it was on social media, he just took a thumbtack bump voluntarily, just flat back bumped on the thumbtacks for the crowd. That's nuts. Crazy stuff. But the blood and guts match was fine. It was bloody. It was gutty. It was everything that I thought it would probably be. Golden Elite won. There was a show of respect after the match as well, with the Elite and the Blackpool Combat Club shaking each other's hands, kind of ending their issue. And saw somebody bitching about it. I thought they were supposed to hate each other. I'm like, yeah, like we've never seen two guys who hate each other have respect for each other when it's over. Look at what happened at WrestleMania 18. Hulk Hogan and The Rock. Like, what was it, 2 weeks before the WrestleMania match? Hogan tried to murder him. He drove an 18-wheeler, or he drove the truck, not the cab, I guess, but he just drove the truck right into the ambulance, T-bones the ambulance that The Rock was in, essentially trying to kill him, and then running away, fleeing the scene of the crime. 2 weeks later, they're in the middle of the ring in Skydome. Hulk eats his final rock bottom. Rock pins him. He gets up and they shake hands. And they have a love fest all the way back to the ramp, to the back. Tito, chill. They're up at the stage. Hogan's lifting Rock's hand up. All of a sudden, they're friends. Are you going to be friends with somebody who tried to kill you 14 days earlier? Come on. So, relax. If you had a problem with them shaking hands, just shut up. Just shut up. It was awesome. So, that issue is done. Should be interesting to see how much more we see of Kota Ibushi in AEW, what the Elite does from here, how Dynamite moves forward now that we've got Collision cooking, and it's clearly, you know, the Punk camp and the Elite camp. And I said before Collision started, it would be really awesome if you could develop some sort of a, not only an internal rivalry in AEW, but with the fans, you know, the Punk and his boys, and want to put on a better show than the Elite, and the Elite feel the same way about them. You could create that competition that could, you know, really elevate your product. Then you get the fans caring about it, because I've already seen that. We're seeing shirts that say I'm a Collision guy, and you've got people who are really vocal about liking Collision better than Dynamite, which whenever that happens, naturally you're going to have people barking back. No, Dynamite's better. Let these people, you know, argue with themselves. Sometimes tribalism can be bad in the terms of like WWE and AEW. But if it's just AEW, if it's confined within one company, it's their own fan base kind of debating, that might be something that outsiders can maybe want to get in on. Oh, I want to join this debate. And that gets more eyeballs. Eric Bischoff's whole point of having the NWO was to get people's mind off of WWE. He wanted to create a conflict within his own company. So with Collision and Dynamite, this could be a similar thing. Granted, Raw and SmackDown, or WWE has 2 shows in Raw and SmackDown, but you don't have that competitive nature between the shows. You kind of did back when it was like the SmackDown 6 in those days, but those days are long gone. I don't think anybody in the WWE roster gives a fuck which brand they're on. They don't care. But in AEW, that's very different. We've heard of wrestlers going to management and saying, I only want to be on this show. And it is a soft brand split where they definitely have some talent exclusively working both with very little crossover. So you could essentially build a fun rivalry that the fans can actually get behind. Not a toxic rivalry, but one that's fun. Because you want debating in wrestling. You want fans to debate who they like better or whatever. Just everything now is so toxic because everybody has to be an expert. Everybody has to know everything. Wrestling fans are very condescending to each other, especially on social media. Every wrestling fan talks to another wrestling fan when they're a fucking idiot. I'm like, they have the same access to all the information you do. You don't know dick more than they do. We're all wrestling fans. We can all read, most of us anyway. We can all click a mouse on a website and read news. It's so easy, you know? And so when you see fans like talking down to each other, like, I'm not a fucking idiot. Like, what the fuck? You're 21 years old trying to tell me, trying to fansplain something to me. I'm like, no, trust me, Junior. I know. I don't need to be told that. Certainly not in a condescending way. So you take out the toxicity or whatever, and you can have, you know, maybe a rivalry within a company to where I'm more Collision, and then you watch Collision hoping it's going to be better than Dynamite. You watch Dynamite hoping it sucks and it's not as good as Collision, so you can brag online. And as long as, you know, it's asking a lot, but, you know, as long as it doesn't get too hateful, you know, and they just destroy each other, then forget it. But Bischoff was pretty successful with that, with the NWO. At least his initial idea was. It got huge because of Hall and Nash, but his idea, the germ of the idea that he had, was to create a conflict within his own company to where fans would forget about the competition, you know, did work a little bit. So it's something to be said for that. Or maybe Tony Khan has got a similar idea here with Collision and Dynamite. I don't know. MJF and Adam Cole. Holy shit, man. Dynamite was so great. I'm loving the relationship between these two, and the dance-off. Oh my God, the dance-off was so great. Garcia and Guevara, their dance made me tingle in my man bits. Wow, sexy stuff there. The way, I forgot which one. I think it was Sammy doing this thing, and then Garcia slid and stuck his head in between Sammy's legs. Fucking crazy. And then MJF and Adam Cole decided to dance, and that was just all kinds of fun because of the relationship between Adam Cole and MJF. This has been way more fun than I thought it was going to be after they had their Broadway for the title, and then they kind of made them, what's it called? Like an odd couple type of partnership there. I'm like, oh, this is going to be stupid. But then almost immediately you could see they had chemistry even better in a lot of ways than like MJF and Jericho. Like I really just enjoyed both of them together. Nothing felt forced or overly animated. MJF and Cole are just very cool together. And it works because of how much of an asshole MJF is and how he keeps this up in real life and how much of a nice guy Adam Cole is. And everybody knows he is. And it really, really works well that they actually do like each other and get along, and at least temporarily, and are having some fun adventures together. So all of that was fun. I don't care about the debate. Well, isn't that a WWE type of thing to dance? I'm like, WWE's done a lot of stupid shit. We've seen a lot of dancing in the ring. This is not something that AEW does regularly. And wrestling is all about having fun. I don't care how many times you do it. I just care if it's fun or not. And you can have a dancing segment that is not fun. I don't give a shit about seeing the Great Khali and Hornswoggle dance, or whatever the hell they were doing back then. But when you can have just some sort of fun segment with a couple of top stars goofing off, it's not something they're doing all the time. Neither one of these men are basing their whole gimmicks around this goofy shit. This was just one thing they did one time, and it was super fun. And as long as it's fun, I don't care which company does it. I don't care whose letters are on the fucking turnbuckle pads. I don't care. I'm a wrestling fan who is entertained by fun shit. And this was fun. Doesn't matter who's doing it, as long as it's fun. I don't care. And I found this to be very fun. Incidentally, Adam Cole and MJF did win that match against Daniel Garcia and Sammy Guevara to win the Blind Eliminator tournament and advance to a tag team title match against FTR this Saturday on Collision. That's going to be something else. Now, we also had a big title change on Dynamite as well last week. Jungle Boy has defeated Hook to become the new FTW champion. He came out to Beethoven's Fifth. Dun, 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 dun. What? I mean, you talk about the most random. I don't even know if it fits him, but I actually kind of like it because kind of like in a right to censor type of way, and take it from me, I was in attendance in person for a lot of right to censor matches, and that piercing alarm of a theme song pissed you off. And it made them bigger heels. And luckily, Beethoven's Fifth isn't as annoying as the piercing right to censor song, but I can see how fans are going to find it annoying because it's a very weird song to use as a wrestling theme. It's random as hell. I don't know what it's supposed to mean, him coming out to this. And I think it might make the fans mad. So let them be mad so they can boo him. Maybe this kid can get some Dominic heat. Because he's really lacking in the charisma department. So if you can get it elsewhere, give him a really, really annoying song that the fans hate. Now he's out there with wearing his black now. I put a pair of ladies' sunglasses on him here on the overlay to try to make him look like a heel. But I liked all of that. I kind of liked his new presentation because it's so weird and doesn't make sense. Is part of the reason why I like it. With Jungle Boy, I'm willing to try anything. I don't care. What was he doing before? He's had some good matches. He's had a couple of world title matches at some pay-per-views in the last couple of months. And he's been, regarded as a pillar in AEW and whatnot. But we still see the limitations Jungle Boy has from a character perspective, from a charisma perspective, from a talking perspective. And with him, try anything, man. He's so stupidly young. If Batista was Deacon Batista and he wound up winning the championship in the main event of WrestleMania a couple years later, I don't think trying something crazy with Hook or with Jungle Boy is really going to do anything to harm him. So try something crazy, give him something wacky. Maybe they can eventually stick Anna Jay with him if they want and go from there. But this new presentation of Jungle Boy, sure, I'm willing to give it a shot. The match with Hook was pretty fun. Hook finally, taking a loss here. There was a ref bump in the corner. And then Jungle Boy went out and got the FTW title, nailed Hook in the face with it, and just kind of laid on him. And before the ref even counted 3, Jungle Boy, or Jack Perry, I should say, was smiling. And it's like he knew he was going to win. It was almost like he was comfortably sleeping on Hook, who he was laying on his stomach. And referee counts 1, 2, 3. Jungle Boy, new FTW champion. Here's what we have set for next week. Orange Cassidy defending his international title against AR Fox. We have Moxley and Claudio versus the Best Friends versus the Lucha Brothers. So that looks like a triple threat tag. We have Pac finally getting revenge on Gravity for forgetting him. This match is a long time coming, but when Gravity forgot who Pac was, that really pissed him off. And he's been waiting years to finally get his hands on Gravity. Wednesday is the night. Ty Valkyrie is going to take on Britt Baker on Wednesday as well, along with Darby Allin one-on-one with Swerve Strickland, and MJF and Adam Cole are going to have an interview. Now, I don't believe they are facing somebody said FTR was Wednesday, but I believe the FTR match is on Saturday. Oh, lost my place. There we go. And so that's it for next week. Darby and Swerve are taking on each other because on Rampage on Friday, we saw that Royal Rampage Battle Royal, that 2-ring Battle Royal that was won by Darby Allin, last eliminating Swerve Strickland. So I think that's why they're facing one-on-one here. And Darby will now get a TNT title shot at All Out. So that's like way over a month away, and that's a long time out. So kind of weird to do that match now for a shot so far in the future, but that's what they did. And one thing I was not able to see this week that aired on Friday was Death Before Dishonor. I have heard amazing things about the Athena and Willow main event. Athena, of course, retained her Ring of Honor world title in a match that many people thought Willow was going to win right after she dropped the Strong title, but then won the Owen. And this issue with Athena has been going on for a while. And I really want to see the match. It was one of the only things I didn't get around to seeing last night when I was trying to catch up on everything. And I know I've missed a good one here, so I will do my best to see the Athena and Willow match because I heard nothing but amazing things about it. So congrats to both women on a phenomenal match that I did not see, but I wish I would have. And that pretty much takes care of last week. Then we had Collision on Saturday. Just going to talk about a few things here because we had that very interesting Billy Gunn taking his boots off shit that we should mention. Now, Ricky Starks opened up the show, cutting a promo, talking about his Owen Cup victory last week. And, kind of insinuated that this is pretty much a heel turn here. Now, CM Punk came out to interrupt without his music, which I like that. I like when somebody comes out in the middle of a promo to interrupt. You don't need to play their music. It's silly too. And I really liked seeing Punk just flat out walk out there. He did call himself the real world's champion right to Ricky Stark's face. So that is still a tease or a reference to MJF. Punk never did lose the title. So he's going to pull a Ric Flair 91 and call himself the real world's champion until whenever he can get that match against MJF in the future. He didn't really have a problem, he said, with what Ricky Starks did. He even said he was kind of proud of him for just doing what he had to do. Christian wound up coming out to the stage. Of course, he has his TNT championship, as he calls it. And that he's then says a few words, and then he's followed out by Darby Allin, who gets in the ring and essentially challenges Christian to a match. Hey, why don't you, if you got so much to say, why don't you man up? As my computer makes noise. Why don't you man up and get in the ring tonight? Why don't you and Ricky Starks team up and face me and CM Punk in a tag team match? And Christian winds up agreeing to that, so that will be our main event. Bullet Club Gold got back on track, defeating Darius Martin and Action Andretti. We had Miro getting a win over Nick Camarado, big beefy Nick Camarado, accolade for the win there. So good to see Miro back and on track, but he's back on TV just kind of winning matches, not doing a whole lot yet. So we need him in a program. He needs a feud. He needs a story. He needs something. Let's start doing something with Miro. FTR, they had a promo talking about their match next week against MJF and Adam Cole. And they said not to trust MJF because of, the Pinnacle days. And they're a little bit annoyed that MJF and Cole are treating the tag titles like a joke, and they're a real team, and they still have a lot of outstanding issues with the Luchas, with the Bucks, with Aussie Open, and they're not about to let some, thrown together comedy duo come in and take away their championship. So that should be a good match, and I'm hoping FTR does, in fact, retain there. We also had Taya Valkyrie defeating Sky Blue one-on-one. So Taya's been getting a lot of matches on TV. She's going to be wrestling Britt Baker this Wednesday as well. And in a really interesting match, we had the Trios Championships on the line. House of Black defending against the Acclaimed and Daddy Ass. Now, I originally thought after the Acclaimed dropped the tags that they would put the Trios titles on these three, but now it's starting to look like it's not going to happen. And after the match, after the Acclaimed lost, Billy Gunn starts unlacing his boots in the ring. And I was at work, busy as hell on Saturday night. So I'm trying to peek at my phone. I'm trying to get a look at what's going on at Collision, what people are saying about it. And I see somebody posting a screenshot of Billy taking his boots off. Holy shit, Billy Gunn just took his boots off in the ring. I didn't see a video. I had no other context of it other than that. I just saw the image of Billy taking off his boots. And the very first thing I said was bullshit. 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 I can't see him just retiring right here, right now, out of the blue, out of nowhere. That seems sketchy to me. So I tweeted that. I'm like, I've only seen the screenshot. When I get home and see the video, maybe I'll feel differently about it, because I did see some fans debating if it was a work or a shoot. So I get home and I finally see the video of what happened. And I'm like, oh, yeah, of course it's a work. It was obvious 10 seconds after he began unlacing his boots. The Acclaimed are very shocked. What's going on here? What is he doing? What is he doing? What's Billy doing? And he's taking off his boots, like seemingly retiring. Bullshit, man. Mark Henry was more believable than this. And I called bullshit on Mark Henry's retirement that everybody fell for except me as soon as Mark Henry started talking that night. I was like, bullshit, he's not retiring. So neither is Billy Gunn. Once you saw it, it was way more obvious. I was kind of speculating at first because I didn't see the video. But once I saw the video, I'm like, oh, yeah, this is totally an angle, because I've always felt that Billy is going to have to reconcile or reunite or do something with his sons before he officially retires, So I still feel like that's coming. So this is probably what that is. Him taking off the boots might be a tease to a retirement that's coming soon. And he might do a Mark Henry type of speech on TV, maybe on Wednesday or next week on Collision, where he's starting to retire. And maybe even his sons come in the ring to taunt him, perhaps. We made you retire. You can't hang anymore, Dad. This is our sport now. This is our game. We run this place. And the Acclaimed, like, get the fuck out of here and give this man his moment. And then maybe Billy turns, attacks the Acclaimed, and all three of the Guns lay down a beating on the Acclaimed. And Billy turns heel, joins his ass boys, and then maybe goes back to just managing them or something. I don't know, but it feels like that's where this is going to wind up. He's going to tease retiring and then turning on the Acclaimed. I feel like all I know is we have not seen Billy Gunn's last match. He's 104 years old, so he should retire soon, but it shouldn't be. I don't believe it's now. So no way. We'll see where that leads, but it was interesting because now I'm intrigued to see what exactly this means and what it means for the story and what Billy is going to do. I feel like it's kind of obvious that it's going to be a heel turn of some kind, but maybe it's not. Maybe it's going to be something completely different. We don't know. And in the main event of Collision, Ricky Starks and Christian did defeat Punk and Darby Allin. It was awesome to see Christian and CM Punk in the same ring together. That's pretty awesome. And when have we ever seen that? I'm sure it's happened, but it's been way back in WWE's days. So that was pretty cool. Starks gets another similar victory, this time rolling up Darby, holding the ropes, gets the quick 1, 2, 3, scurries away, and twice now he beats CM Punk in singles competition and now in a tag team match. 2 victories in a row, Ricky Starks over CM Punk. So are they going to stretch this to All In? Punk and Starks, are they going to try to have a match there? Or is this just something they're going to handle on Collision, and Punk is going to have a much bigger opponent for All In. All In is coming up in a little bit over a month, so you're going to have 80,000 people there. You need to make sure you've got your best possible matches. So hopefully things can start taking shape. The Elite is done with Blackpool Combat Club, so something needs to happen there. Maybe Omega and Ospreay have that final match or whatever. And I was hoping we would see Danielson and Okada at All In as well, but we might not. We'll have to see how the card shapes up. We'll be talking about that in upcoming weeks. But this has been a damn long podcast, guys. 2.5 hours. I need to get out of here. Elizabeth is probably wondering why the hell I'm talking so long, but we had a lot to catch up on. So thanks for being here. Let me cruise to the chat, though, and talk to you guys, answer any more questions, answer any more super chats that might be coming through. Like this one from Jay Lambo. Appreciate the 5, my friend. If Drew were to go to AEW, who would you want him to start a feud with? My God. I just feel like someone like McIntyre, you'd have to immediately have in the world title picture. Could you imagine a face-to-face promo with McIntyre and MJF? MJF is a pretty short little fella there, and standing right next to McIntyre would be crazy looking. I feel like Drew would have to be automatically in the world title picture somehow. But I don't know what you would do with him. You could feud with anybody. Put him in there with somebody big right off the bat, like a Luchasaurus, or I don't know. If he aligns with somebody, stick him with Wardlow. So many matches he could have there. Wardlow, Samoa Joe, Big Bill. I don't know. I don't know what you would do with Drew. That's why if I'm McIntyre, if I'm in McIntyre's shoes, I would like to stay in WWE if I could. As long as I can get the money I'm looking for. I think there's a lot more uncertainty in AEW. Granted, with WWE, they haven't been perfect with McIntyre, with his booking, but they always use him, and they always use him well, and he's always a part of stuff, and he's always on TV, and he's always being featured, and he always has exposure. Where in AEW, you have no idea how they're going to book you, because we've seen people like Miro get over there and nothing happens. So it just depends. I feel like if I was Drew, I'm in a system that I already know. I know everybody in WWE. I know the management. I know the talent. I know how they do things here. And I know I'm always going to have a spot here. It sounds like it's probably just going to come down to money. And there's only one belt in AEW to go around. At least WWE does have 2. So being featured more in WWE sounds like where he should stay. Maybe down the road he goes to AEW. Don't know. Yeah, Rock vs. Hogan was 21 years ago? Long time ago. The only way you can have a better show is if you have the giant fist. Barry MK is right. Truer words have never been spoken. Reading some of these comments here. Billy is bringing Bart into AEW to win the tag team titles. That could be. The Smoking Guns reunite. Holy shit, what a fantastic idea. I love that. But anyway, I do need to get out of here, guys. Thank you for hanging out tonight. A lot of these Monday streams are probably going to be long because I'm in no hurry. I don't have to go anywhere. Like my Saturday streams before, a lot of times I'd be heading to work, so we kind of had a curfew. We had a time limit. But on Mondays, we can spend time catching up on a lot. So I appreciate all of you who were here. Keep a lookout to the channel. I got to figure out Wednesday or Thursday, but we'll resume Saturday night's main event for the members, the watch-alongs. We're going to be doing episode 4 this week. Next week's SummerSlam watch-along on Sunday is already up, SummerSlam 1988. And you'll probably see me again before this weekend. I'm still trying to formulate a schedule to where you can see me on a Thursday or a Friday or a Saturday. So just please stay tuned and bear with me this summer. And thank you for all of your support as always. Have a great rest of your Monday, and I'll be talking to you